partially connected to an FBI investigation, even from just what we read in the media. So to keep it in simple terms, just because you and I hadn't caught up in a while, my marketing firm, me personally, I'm working on the mayor's campaign for re-election. And a news article drops in a local paper, online source. And
was it here?
It was here, yeah. And you look all this stuff up. And I'm not going to cite sources because I didn't prep notes. I'll just get it wrong, right? But what I'm saying is a local news source drops an article that apparently turned out to be old news. This was stuff that the mayor was investigated for like back in 2015. Maybe he's being investigated again. I don't know. I haven't kept up with it. But this just like regurgitation of this, I think, 2015 investigation and article was just sort of written. Anyways, what it looked to me like was being done was an obvious smear campaign. Any way you slice it, right? Now, I'm not judging anybody for that. I don't know the politics behind it, but to me, it looked like a smear campaign. As a marketing guy, as a guy that does editorial, as a guy that can do layouts, I was like, wow, somebody paid for this. And somebody would have to really prove to me otherwise. But so anyways, the write-in wins. The current mayor was not reelected. But that was just to answer your question. What had actually gone on during the campaign was all the juicy, interesting stuff. So we're sitting at my conference table at the marketing firm. And we're having a meeting with the mayor and the head of the campaign. His campaign manager, Tony Herman, really nice guy, was my real estate agent. You know, Tony. So Leanne Bowman comes in the door, surprised. Oh, hey guys, I just saw everybody's car out there, saw the mayor's car, thought I would stop in. Well, what had happened was she's been billing herself to me and others as the mayor's aide. I don't think she was in an official capacity. So what happened was I had sent an email out to everybody. She got notice that the meeting was going to happen, I think, and showed up. She felt excluded. Anyway, she burst in, and there was a little air of desperation, like this was a person being excluded. And I don't know any of the inner workings, and I'm not commenting on it. But this is what happened, right? I'm chilling in my marketing firm. Leanne Bowman bursts in the door. I get a voicemail from her that night, which I saved on my phone. It's pretty entertaining. And then it's like 1 or 2 days later, I think, an article comes out about her. It hits the news here locally that local Lake Ozark real estate cheerleading mom arrested by highway patrol for conspiracy to first-degree murder. Apparently, they're accusing her of she was going to have her mother-in-law killed.
Whoa. For
interfering with her relationship with her children. So this is all in the article. You should go read it. It's public. I mean, none of this is personal behind-the-scenes stuff. But, I mean, that was abrupt in my life. We're working this campaign. We're moving quickly on it. We're excited about it. We're proud to have it. All this bad stuff comes out. I mean, hey, we're just doing the optics on this campaign. We're marketing for graphics, right? We're not PR. No problem. And the mayor was a really nice guy. This was a good experience for us. And then a lot of things start happening. And then all of a sudden somebody's arrested for conspiracy to first-degree murder. And then this article drops that the mayor might have been involved in some pretty gnarly stuff.
Wow. I mean, just like I said maybe 10 minutes ago, I've been out of the loop, man. This is crazy.
That's a lot going on around here, right?
Yeah. So can I ask you this? What's the current situation now with her? Is she in jail or?
I'm pretty sure she bonded out. Somebody local texted me that this doesn't have to be true, but said she jumped in a real expensive car. Somebody had to bond out. She had a $450,000 bail, so it's a $45,000 cash bond, right?
Wow.
So yeah, somebody came and swooped her up, and I heard she's wearing a new piece of jewelry on her ankle and sitting at home, which is in this neighborhood, by the way. She lives in this neighborhood somewhere.
No.
Yeah, right?
Wait,
no? You've been there?
Yeah, because I've been over there, did some headshots. I think, you know what? Oh man, I can't remember now. I get them all mixed up. I have headshots and then real estate, and I'm all over the place. So
how many really nice looking people in this neighborhood might be murderers? We're all just waving at them as they go by, and they're just like tucking their knives behind their seats.
I mean, the more and more we find out, it's just shocking how you know someone and then all of a sudden something like that happens. I mean, obviously we've seen it on the news to where people are just shocked that their neighbor was this or that, but I guess when it happens to you, it's kind of weird. But I mean, we don't know all the stories, so who knows, right? I guess we'll find out.
I don't know what the truth of the matter is. I don't know that I'm ever going to know, because I don't know that I'm ever going to invest the energy to dig.
Yeah.
I don't really like knowing things like that about people, because I don't want to
Changes
pass
everything,
judgment.
really. I mean, it's like, it's not even necessarily that you couldn't forgive someone. It's almost like, I mean, I guess in a way, I mean, she was a friend. I mean, like, we were pretty close in the sense to where, I mean, she called me for a lot of jobs. I always appreciated that. I mean, she recommended me to people. I mean, I would definitely consider her a friend. And that's why I think it would be more shocking or even harder to like try to navigate that, just because there was trust there, you know what I mean? In a sense. And I guess maybe in my older age now, it's like, you know, once that's broken a few times, like over my life, it's like, you know, it's hard for me to kind of navigate that in I mean, definitely forgiving, but I don't know if I could hang out. You know what I mean? Like that part would be maybe hard.
So let me ask you a question. Like, I think we all deal with this every day. Do you think that it's conviction by media? Right.
Well, it could be. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we don't know the whole story. Like,
Sure. I don't mean just this case either, but like, that's what I'm asking you personally, is you're talking about a potential betrayal or how you look at a person.
No.
So
you
now
go
that you've
there.
heard
I mean,
that this
but look,
could be true.
Yeah.
Do you already hold that opinion? I mean, if you're real genuine with yourself, you're already
absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, you have to almost go there. I mean, it's like once you see something, it's like, how do you unsee it? It's impossible. So,
well, it's real easy to accuse somebody of something.
Yeah.
But I say this all the time. I really doubt I'm going to get accused of something like that, because I don't rub up against it. I'm not in situations that might lead to being in a room where somebody might think, like, I just stay away from the whole realm of it. So if you're not rubbing up against the windshield, you're not likely to get
I totally
it,
agree with you. I mean, when you're running with it, I mean, it catches up to you or whatever. But even that part, like, I don't even know some of that other stuff. Like, I mean, it's crazy to even hear it. But yeah, you have to go there because we have to be wise, you know, in our walk, you know.
I don't know what to believe myself, but now I'm asking you, and this is kind of a fun question.
Sure.
But like, now having a daughter as a defense mechanism because an accusation's been made, hey, you weren't that close with a person, just better to assume it in case for your own child's safety. Do you start holding that opinion in real world application where she's out now? What if she calls? Do you not call her back?
No, I think that would be the preferred method, actually. I mean, let's have a phone conversation. Let me try to understand it a little bit. You know what I mean? Let me hear your side.
Yeah, don't abandon a friend.
Exactly. Right? Like, I mean, I think that, you know, I guess in any kind of, like, regardless if it's something pretty major like that or minor, I think the whole doing what you would want to have done to you, you know what I mean? Because I've been in situations to where, you know, someone said this or that and it was totally untrue, and you got to go through that. And you also understand that people are going to start doing that real world type of thing with you.
It's real easy to accuse somebody of something that doesn't make it true, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's hurtful. If you've ever been accused of something, you're like, hey, I really didn't do that.
Yeah.
It's hurtful when you know that's not true.
Bro, it's the worst, actually. I mean, being accused of something you didn't do, I mean, I could only imagine spending jail time for something like that, because at that point, you don't even have the opportunity to be rejected. You just have the opportunity to be done. You know what I mean? Like, just with friends or just people in the neighborhood, if you're in the pen, you know what I mean? It's like you're guilty, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how did you not get out of that?
Well, see, that's what I said. Like, somebody could throw an accusation at a person like me that's not rubbing up against the world of it, but nothing would stick. They're not going to come arrest me for it. They arrest people with evidence. And so I'm not passing judgment. I don't know the details. But let me ask you, I started to earlier when we broke on the spot.
Okay.
Leanne Bowman, capable of murder?
You know what? That's so hard to say, actually. I mean, I mean, when we talk about like individuals, like some of the stuff is, especially these days, I find it's very hard to judge, really. I mean, I think, and me being out of the loop and not hearing this story at all goes to show you, bro. Like, I literally stay in a cave with my baby girl. So it's like, I don't know what to think of anybody, really. I mean, a lot of people, you know.
The world's on fire right now, right?
Sure.
I mean, I try not to dig into politics anymore because I found that you run aground real quickly in those conversations. There's no polite conversations about politics anymore. I've gotten to the point where I'm the I don't know guy and the I don't care guy.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to fight through it. I don't want to trudge through the conversations. But so the whole world's kind of on fire, and maybe you could chalk up the Leanne thing and the mayor thing and whatever to, hey, the world's on fire. Some of it might be true. Maybe none of it's true. We don't know.
Yeah.
But I think judgment's a big word. And I know that that's been big in both of our lives.
Sure.
But tell people first why you don't know about the story. You always have a great reason for being in your cave. Because let me paint the picture.
Okay.
Most talented photographer I know. So super talented, creative professional. Beautiful home facing a lake. Great view, very inspiring. And you have your studio set up in a wonderful way. And the lighting's good for where you like to do what you like to do on your computer, your setup. And I can't brag on your photography enough. So you take that person, and like me, we just sort of had enough of the world, right? Maybe for different reasons, but we both really unplugged in those ways. Tell people why you did it.
Man. I rent my home at the moment, so I don't want that to, I love where I live, but there's a lot in my life right now to where I can say it's almost definitely not ground zero, but it's about a good 5 years into a rebuild, if you will. And I've been in that house now 4 years, so it's got a lot of meaning as far as for me, and it's what we're talking about as far as escaping the world type of thing.
It's a cool place to escape, man.
Oh my gosh. I mean, like literally what I was going through at the moment and the way that actually turned out, I ended up there, like not necessarily seeking it out, but just because I needed a place and that just popped up.
That's some true serendipity though. I mean, that's a great spot.
So once I got in there, it's like, even since I've been in there, somebody was sniffing around wanting to buy it. And it got to the point to where we were
leave all your trash out on the lawn when they drive by.
No. You know me, B. Like the whole reason and everything that happens, I truly believe is a spiritual thing. Like I truly believe we're spiritual people first, and the physical is just literally our spacesuit here, like being on Earth. I think that this world is on fire in the sense to where it's doing exactly what the scripture said it would do. Like, I mean, good will be bad, bad will be good. Like during the end times, we're seeing exactly this thing happening. And I haven't escaped the world. I've actually gone into a training center, if you will, by myself. And that little girl, she's like the one that, she's the one that actually keeps everything moving in the sense of purpose, because what I'm trying to do for her is be him to her, and that's impossible, right? But striving for it feels good because it is a spiritual journey. So everything that I live is more internal, and I find that if I do more internal, especially like feeding off the bread and eating the word of God, I truly, man, I've been inspired. Like I feel strong, like in the sense to where I finally feel like I'm at a point to where the only thing that matters is how he sees me. My mission here is the same mission for all believers, truly, is commissioned to spread the gospel. And it sounds so cultish like we talked before, and I would love to dive into that in the sense to where it does sound weird, dude. I walked away from that night and I gained a lot from it in the sense of it was positive for me. Like, it is a fairy tale if you think of it. You know what I mean? Like, it is a fable if you really, truly... Go ahead.
Well, let me jump in there because that's where I got stifled. That's a really pivotal point. I'm sure that we're going to lift the pin on it in this conversation. But, to unbox it a little bit, I had a really bad experience in several churches, and it forced me to do a self-evaluation where I realized that I was really honed in on something, on an energy, on a connection. I believed in the prayer. But then I realized everything they handed me in a pamphlet felt like summer camp and bubblegum. And at some point, I felt like I graduated past it, and I felt like that was the true test, was to graduate beyond this little version we can sum up and then unpack for you every Sunday because it's very cryptic and weird, but that sure keeps us filtering the information the way we want it to in these handy little pamphlets that always say these beautiful things. For me, I felt like I graduated past that. That was the real test. And now I look at it and I say, oh, I get it. This is just a story people wrote. I get it. This is just a story. Like, this is supposed to get you there. This is training wheels. And so that's the point I'm at now. And I struggled with it for a while.
Yeah.
And you feel lost no matter who you are, what your belief system is. If you lose your belief system, you're reeling for a minute. Don't care who you are, what it was, it's jilting.
But I think that's the difference between belief system and Jesus, though. Really and truly, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that truly is like where everything lies is right there. If you think about this, okay, if you know that there's a God that came and died, like
I don't know that.
I know, but let's just say, for an example, according to the story, this happened, okay, and then you also have the bad guy, okay. You know, from our own morality, there's a good and a bad, right? I mean, as far as like, you know, if someone came and killed your girlfriend right now, that would be considered someone that would be bad, right?
I feel like the reason the 10 Commandments exist is because universally in every culture, we can agree that those things are pretty good, right? Like, I feel like, yes, that's sort of
But even in your own heart, I mean, though.
Oh, yeah, of course, in my heart. But, but there's bad people. Like, see, there's always these what feels like shades of gray. And maybe you can tell me I'm wrong. This isn't a gray area. But, for example, in your belief system, can't take a life. Can you be a Christian soldier and be commissioned to take a life when you don't know the person, you don't know the reason?
Yes.
Tricky, right?
No, not tricky at all, because you're subject to an authority. So, for an example, like in that particular case, you saw back in the Old Testament that they warred all the time. So if someone signed up to be in the army... But don't you think
we're supposed to get away from that? Like, don't you think maybe we're done reading the same material from when we warred a lot and lived in tribes in Israel? And maybe it's really time to have graduated out of that and to evolve?
Well, man's always going to strive for power. I mean, that's never going to go out of a man. Like,
yeah, unfortunately, I agree.
Okay, so we're always going to be dealing with power.
But when you say, oh man, I don't think every man...
No,
I desire no power.
No, exactly.
Aiden want to see your name in lights on a big shiny glass building, 40 stories tall.
No,
kind
not
of
everybody.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Not everybody.
But yes,
but here's
the sociopaths that want to rule. Seem to want power.
Absolutely. So
it's probably
that's in our nature, though, right?
Because it's probably ingrained.
Do you think that you want to, like, say for an example, even power in the sense of taking control over your own life? I mean, it could just be like, you know, in the sense to where it's in our nature, if you will, in our nature. But going back to a second ago, I think the difference in belief systems in this Jesus is this, that people are literally like trying to, or literally would die for this savior. Like, that's when it really truly starts separating, because if you think about it, I mean, you saw, well, you don't, I know we don't take like the gospel, like when me and you talk, to where it's like, it can be believable. But if people are willing to die for something and we know that they died for it, then it's something, it's more than that. But there's other religions that actually die to gain it.
I'm willing to believe, first of all, that people will die for a cause. I'm sure there's someone on this planet that would die for Twinkies. So I have no problem believing that.
That's true, actually, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, really.
I know people dying for fast food.
You're right. Yeah.
You ain't going to see 40, brah.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep eating them burgers. So yeah, people will die for a cause. It's not that I don't think that it's believable. I am literally as open as I could be to that being the truth, because I think it's as likely that's the truth as something else, right? But in me meandering through the darkness of life and putting my hands out there to see what I can feel, I've never bumped into any evidence of it. So for my personal journey, I've never discovered anything where if somebody hadn't packaged it and handed it to me at the mall and said his name is Jesus, I've never encountered anything that told me that there's a Jesus, that God came to earth, that he was nailed to wood and died, and that somehow a lot of people forgot that, and that there's a literal bad guy that controls all evil in the world walking around. You see where it becomes a fairy tale.
Absolutely. That's why
you see where it absolutely sounds like something
I walked away from our conversation.
Right.
Literally, this conversation that we're having now, very similar to the one that we had before, right? I walked away from that conversation understanding, okay, wait a second. Wait. I finally understand how people actually see me. Like, in other words, you open my eyes to me being that freak that maybe people don't really want to hear about Jesus type of guy. And I thought to myself, it was eye-opening, like in the sense to where I never thought of it that way. Like I literally thought like some of the conversations that I have with people about him are engaging enough and respectful enough to where it wasn't that guy. But at the same time, if it is that fable or fairy tale, absolutely I'm that guy. You know what I mean? Like, because of the conversations.
It's hard when you're fervent, when you're passionate about something. You know, all you're talking about is engines, and then you realize everybody in the room just gets in their car and turns it on with a key and drive. They don't care about your engine.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're not going to go home and build an engine. They're not buying engine parts. They're not looking at headers. My God, you got a lot of mileage about engines, and really everybody else at the table just wants to get in their car and drive home, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that there's the
element. This is life or death, though, bro. This isn't driving.
So there is the element of there's always an appropriate time and place for every conversation. That's why these conversations go so well. I say this all the time. Mm-hmm. This is a church in a sense because it's a dedicated space for basically like the worship of good conversation.
Yeah.
This space is set aside only for the purpose
of good conversation. I'm happy to be here, bro. Like, so it feels I've been dying here, to right? be here from the beginning. No, absolutely.
And you're going to be back a bunch.
Yeah.
I think that I was at a point of frustration when we talked, and it was jilting in my life what was going on in my belief system, and that's why a lot of it came out the way it did. But let me clarify. This was probably the most pivotal point and the number one thing I'd love your response on.
Okay.
So this is what happened to me one day is I started reading different Bibles, less in a religious pursuit mental capacity like that. I guess I should say it was in the mindset I was in. Certainly that there would always be that component meandering through a Bible, but it was just to see what other cultures write, how they phrase things. This is their cherished writings. This is their words that they've protected generation after generation. I want to see what theirs looks like. Mm-hmm. I think everybody on earth should be that curious, right?
I agree.
So anyways, I'm looking through them and I realize that a lot of what I'm seeing made me arrive at like, oh, wait a minute. These are all just clubs. These all sound like cults. You're not allowed to interact with the outside world if you can't convert them. You don't want to look at that. You don't want to see what's going on. Everything they're doing is bad. And we want to control the way you think and what you do with your private parts. But here was the kicker though.
Okay.
I started talking to people out of a genuine curiosity, just on my journey of life, my pursuit of knowledge, looking for truth. And I would talk to a Muslim woman or Muslim gentleman. Maybe people in my life I didn't know held that belief system. Certainly Christians I have in my life, a lot of them that I respect so highly that I can go to you guys and ask real questions, hard questions I need to know the answer to. But I started talking to people with different religious beliefs. And almost all of the systems that you're involved in require that to be the only path to God. You have exclusivity. Everybody else is by the rules of your own game wrong. And you're praying to the one true God. However, I sat in front of these people that were so fervent, that felt it in their soul, that just glowed with their belief system. And I thought, how could you look at a person like this and tell them that they're wrong, but by the rules of the game they must be? And here's what I arrived at. Here's the punchline. If you take 10 religions, and there's certainly well more than 10 that hold the belief system that it's the only way, and you're all so dedicated and so fervent, and you talk to God, right? You have a personal relationship with Jesus.
Absolutely.
If only one of you can be correct, then all the rest of you are talking to an imaginary friend. That was hard for me because what it made me realize wasn't that I was a fool for talking to an imaginary friend if I was the one that was wrong. It was that we all have the capacity to do it. So if he can believe as deeply as she can believe as deeply as you do, but by the rules of the game, only one of you can be correct, everybody else is the crazy. Well, that's hard for me.
Well, of course. Yeah. I mean, goodness, try to explain that to someone. Like when here's how I like to try to anyways. Only one died and rose again. So let's start marking everyone else off the list.
Why?
Like, well, if you think about it, like if we do have this example that we know that the Old Testament exists, by the way, B, like I know that we've had that conversation before.
What do you mean exists? I'm not arguing the existence of the Old Testament.
But meaning like this, the validity of it. Like I think the way that you were trying to explain
How do you mean validity though?
Validity.
Like lay it out.
Okay, so I don't know exactly the year, but I think it was 1940 something. It was right around the time that Israel became a nation again. But that's when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like, in other words, that was an actual event to where someone stumbled across these jars, right, in this cave. When they pull them out and they start examining these scrolls, they see that it's exactly like the Bible. And it's just like Isaiah. I mean, it's Isaiah. The Dead Sea Scrolls are literally scriptures from the Bible.
There were also a lot of scriptures in there that people would argue were cut out of the Bible later intentionally. The Dead Sea Scrolls did a lot to contradict the current canon, but I mean, please go ahead.
Okay, but let's just take like the...
What was your point though? I don't want to miss it. Like, they discover the Dead Sea Scrolls.
So in other words, we have these written words that God talks so highly of, to the point to where he says, no matter what, my word is going nowhere, meaning everything that is written will remain forever.
I don't think that that's the case exactly, though. Are you saying in the current canon? Are you saying you could buy it at Barnes & Noble accessible, or you just mean it's sitting in clay jars somewhere?
No. Okay, so what actually happens is like, just in a basic sense, when you read the Bible, a Christian understands who God is. Like, so in other words, when he's talking about be just and merciful, and the fruits of the Spirit is love and gentleness, when you see someone, and you've known me for a long time now, I would think that you would understand that my character has been the same, right? Like in the sense to where,
oh yeah, maybe
you could vouch for me in the sense to where I've dealt with some pretty hard things, and you see me reacting to it in what way? Like, you know what I mean?
Always back to the scriptures.
Okay,
I would absolutely say that about you.
Okay, yes, thank you, bro, because you know, I that means a lot to me, honestly, because I don't mind people having an opinion and truly trying to ask me what they think of me or whatever. But to have you say it means a lot to me, because truly I feel like that's the path that I've truly like worked out and like
you have a
managed.
Strong walk, man. You have a strong walk,
you know, it's important. Anyways,
it is the focal point of your life, to the point that anyone in your community, even if they just know you as a great photographer, would be like, oh, the Christian photographer guy.
Yeah, I don't know if they would or not. I mean, I would hope so. You know what I mean?
I feel like they know you that way, and I've never heard anybody say anything sideways in that regard. It's always just Jacob or, oh, the Christian guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you do some writing.
Yeah.
You do some speaking. You know, you're involved at your church, so people know you in the community, man. I would say everybody knows you start there.
No, I appreciate it. No, but the whole thing with the Old Testament, we have this written word, and when you go through the word and you basically at this particular point, being that Jesus did die and rose again, we have the Holy Spirit amongst us now, to the point to where he's our helper and our teacher, to where whenever we open up the Bible and we truly are seeking this Jesus, you find him because you're seeking him in this way. I know that people say, well, I've read the Bible, I've done these things, I still feel the same. Like, I don't feel like he exists. Like, you know, and I get that. And I get that. Here's something.
Can I clarify though?
Yeah, go ahead.
I absolutely believe in God. And I do not have any trouble believing, one, that Jesus the man existed, but the historical records of him are just that he existed and he died. Okay, so we have to take the scripture at its word. There's no recordings by like Roman historians of miracles.
No, absolutely there is.
Of miracles?
No,
just of him existing, sure.
No. Actual accounts of what actually happened.
Like, no. I'm going to let you tell all of that. All I wanted to clarify was just that I do believe in God, but here's what I think the problem is. You're being very, not you, every religion, very rigid in, we have the answer, the only answer. We absolutely have it. It's polished on every edge. It's perfect. What if it's not? What if no one's talking to an imaginary friend? What if the Holy Spirit that we all feel, that's just spirit, that is God, and the only thing preventing us from all getting together and really reaching some truth there is that you got to call it Jesus and they got to call it Muhammad, and you can't have the right answer. We got the only way. Like, don't you feel like you could give warm clothes and food to people without stifling all of humanity's progress?
I think I see what you're saying. I think it would be fair to say this. I think I'll address one thing that you said. You said, what if it's not? I'll say this. Following Christ is freedom, and it is life.
I completely disagree.
Okay, and that's fine.
I was pitched that the entire book, if you threw it in a blender and poured it out, was love. I would actually define it with no malice. I would define it as rules, consequences, separation, isolation, and hate.
Yeah. I mean, anybody that doesn't have Christ, of course they would see it that way. Like, I mean, I think that
so if I don't join the cults,
no,
I
it's
can't
not
enjoy
join.
the cult.
That's another thing. It's not a joining type of thing.
See, I never liked acquired taste. This beer tastes terrible and it's bad for you, but keep doing it until you like it.
Well, if it's healthy for you. No, if it's healthy for you.
So my opinion that I hold, I don't think that it is healthy to get into one segregation, to bow down under anybody that says, I absolutely have the answer and this is the only answer and everybody else is wrong and essentially should and will be punished for it.
I'm not saying I have the answer. I found it. Like, I mean, I ran across it.
I feel like that's always dangerous, though. That's always a dictator, right?
No.
It's always a dictatorship that says, my way or the highway. I have the answer. And here's what I always stumble on, and then you can segue into unpacking all these wonderful bits of knowledge that you have, because you know the nooks and crannies. But I'm willing to entertain that they completely could be, man. Okay. I mean, they certainly are a kind of knowledge, and I'm willing to admit that they could be the truth. Mm-hmm. But I think that there's truth peppered into stories, peppered into fables, peppered into what survived. It's kind of more a shotgun shell of humanity's history through one particular sect of people than it is the rigid truth. And we're constantly rewriting the truth. A lot of the Bible is tied up in the age of Israel, of course. That's always like the, what does Don Stewart call it? That's the countdown clock to the end times is Israel.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of the Bible's history or historicity, as you choose to see it, is tied up in ages and sagas and truths from Egypt, where part of it's set, right? Mm-hmm. And we just keep discovering new things that alter that timeline. We're talking things are tens of thousands of years older. Maybe they don't have any relevance to the Bible, but here's where I stumble again. Why does the Bible always have a convenient answer for everything that provides no evidence, no satisfaction, and no one ever shows up? Like, let me ask the hard question. Where's God? Where's the Christian God that says he's coming? It's coming. Trifecta's coming. Right now? Where's God? Where is it?
The Holy Spirit, like
today
I said,
now?
Our God is actually in heaven building us mansions from what the scriptures say. The Holy Spirit is our Holy Spirit, which is our teacher.
So God's infinite, but he needs some time. He's going to build his houses.
Just basically, he said, where I go, I'm preparing a place for you. And where I am, there you will be with me also. So basically what that means is basically when he ascended, I mean, he's God, man. So, I mean, if he's down here in the flesh, he took on the human suit and he did it without sin in a way of this, to where he still had to fight all the temptations that we do. So he's not asking us to be perfect, but he's a God that empathizes and understands because he went through it. Another point of that is just his mercy on that. But I want to go back just one thing a second ago, whenever we were talking, and it was like we were talking about, what if Jesus isn't real? And you were living your life for him, and it just turned out in the end you were wrong, right?
Sure.
And I would say to that, and I started to say that Jesus is freedom in this way. Like when you do surrender your own life for his purpose, working for God, if you will, that's when you truly find the peace. That's when you truly find that calmness in those moments, to where you're like, instead of it being like, why is this happening to me? It's almost like, Lord, what are you preparing me for? Because I can take it because you're with me, but just help me understand what's happening. And then I just go to the scripture and I'm like, oh, okay. He suffered. We have to suffer. We get to look like goofballs. I'm a Noah right now, right? I'm on top of a wooden structure with a hammer on dry land. It hasn't rained in 120 years, and people are walking by me going, dude, you're a total goofball. What are you doing up there?
But you got the faith, you got the dedication. You're going to stand true.
But it's going to rain.
Maybe.
It will.
I love your faith. I think the problem is that I constantly, I hear pastors say this. Mm-hmm. I still listen to sermons. They're uplifting. They're beautiful. It's a good message. I like sermons from different cultures, by the way, but Greg Laurie talks a lot, and he's one of my favorite pastors. He talks a lot about, if you live and die like a Christian, you still lived a better quality of life. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not quoting Greg Laurie.
I actually like that. Yeah.
Okay. It sounds really beautiful because I think everybody has a picture in their mind of like what a Christian in America is. Mm-hmm. Oddly enough, I think we're all picturing something different, but here's my point. What if you actually miss out on a lot of the journey because it was your job here as your existence to fight through the nonsense and develop real knowledge and know truth from falsities, from things that men and women write and make up that people invent, and to know truth. And you got stuck in this one rut in the record scratch and you just missed like the next 40 years of evolving your soul because Jesus and only Jesus and Jesus got it right. And then it turns out that there really was a consequence in the end. You missed a lot of your soul's development by getting into this rut. This one thing.
No, I see. Yeah. And it's right? Just like that last conversation we had. I see your point on that.
So why so much dedication?
Well,
like why so? How is it absolutely rock solid in your mind? Because, I always envy this.
And this is the difference. I still am the same before I was a Christian as I am after a Christian.
I completely disagree.
Well, I mean, not from the things I do, but what I mean is just, I still have the same desires, if you will.
Sure.
I don't act on them all the time, but I guess maybe we're all living the same life. I guess whenever you taste this Jesus and you truly understand it, it's one of those things to where our God said that he knew us before we were in the womb, like before he knit us in the womb. In other words, that's an intimate Father that understands and knows his child in and out. Some were created for...
Hold on, though.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make a joke here. I'm being really serious.
No, go ahead.
I occasionally get a Hallmark card that sounds like it was written for me.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents in particular, by the way, are very good about picking a card that is just so heartfelt. I mean, it's what my parents would say to me if they made a greeting card. And it feels so personal and so intimate, and I keep every one of those cards. So here you have this human tendency to connect to this thing that's just for you, precious you, snowflake, and then you're going to hold on to that thing because it's precious to you.
This is a spiritual thing we're talking about here. This isn't a Hallmark card. Like this happens in the heart, brother. Like you're changed internally. Like this isn't a...
Tell people about... That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. This is an internal thing.
Totally different frame of life after this, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You have framed your life differently.
Absolutely.
Tell people about that.
It's simple. Like, first of all, we're here. We're on this planet, right? We're going to drop one of these days to the ground.
What do you do in the meantime, right?
I think whenever you're saying, hey, you're going to miss out on a lot, I think if I understand it correctly, if we have a God that we do, and I could live my life to glorify him because I'm going back to him, that I think is the moments in life that you're actually... we're going to go to him. So in other words...
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
Is he who you want to go to?
Absolutely.
Like, is he the best version of what you hope is true?
Absolutely.
If you could write the story, you wouldn't change it?
It's not my story, but I'm just glad I'm a part of it.
Sure. Is this really the story you want to be a part of, though? I've got to be honest.
I didn't have a choice.
Okay, that's fair.
I
understand that your belief system has you rooted in the fact that this is happening, that this is real.
Absolutely.
I either don't see that that's going on because I don't believe it, or it's not going on, but I'm not involved in it. So we're living in different augmented realities. You see things
very
differently.
True, B. It's very true.
So here's why I'm asking. It's out of respect, but I have to ask.
Yeah.
Where's your guy?
What do you mean?
Where's your guy? Like, I just kind of feel like we've all been reading the same text for 2,000 plus years. We've all heard the same words and the same sermons.
Yeah.
And they're always finding some cryptic way to say, as God did that. And it's like, wait a minute. When I look at the vastness of the universe, which they didn't conceive of back when the church was still putting people to death or confining them to their homes for saying that we weren't the center of the universe because God would only make us the center of the universe, back when the Catholic Church was still doing that kind of like global damage to humanity's progress. We didn't have that kind of knowledge. When I look at the vastness of the universe that we now know about, there's no way I think the God that is working on all of that, because it's all still in movement, cares what you do with your dick. There's no way in my mind. And I've never sensed anything in all my prayer time, in all my meditation, in all my workouts when I'm deep into it, in my hero doses of cannabis when I'm really seeking, when I am wide open and journaling and reading. I've never encountered a God I felt judged me or told me to do something in particular, to paint a red cross on my shield and go kill men.
Judge you, right? I mean, you felt a human judge you
all day, every day.
So, bro, what does that feel like? Like in other words,
so you're saying God just doesn't make me feel bad, but I'm still being judged?
No. I guess maybe
in real world application.
I guess what I was hearing you say is I don't feel like I've never felt judged by God.
I don't sense the God of the
Bible.
Okay,
but what I'm saying is if you felt the judgment from a human being and it's hurt you to the core, like it has both you and I, bro, how much more on a life-giving God? In other words, like if we have this,
all he has to do is show up and judge me. Go ahead, just show up at one time and be like, "You're living your life wrong."
But that's His grace,
in
brother.
all my prayer. Just show up one time and just be like, "Hey, you know what? I'm here for you."
That's His grace, man. I mean,
how is that grace? How's not showing up grace? How's like I'm the good dad?
Because you have to make that decision before.
It's the moral of every '90s movie. I can't come to your play, Timmy. I can't see your recital, Jenny. I can't come to your tuba performance because daddy's got to be at the office because I'm a responsible father who's paying the rent. But everybody that watches the movie just feels bad for the little girl or boy, and he didn't show up, and later he has to make it right because everyone knows you feel like a shitbag when your dad doesn't show up.
But look, here's the deal.
Where's your guy?
This part right now that we're in right now, our dad has sent us out to do a mission.
What part we're in? What part we're in?
The part meaning our life. Like He sent us out to
sent who out?
God has sent us out.
You and me.
Absolutely, all of us.
Okay, every one of us.
Jesus Christ died on the cross for all of us, right? I mean, sinner and non-sinner, believer, non-believer, all that.
Okay, send us out.
So the stage that we're in right now is actually we are out. Like I see you doing the Father and not showing up to the play, and where's He at? Our God has sent us out on a mission, so we already know that we're out right now doing something.
What are we supposed to be doing?
Inviting people to a wedding.
That's weird. I don't want to do that.
But you don't have to.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
But we're supposed to be out inviting people to the wedding, honestly.
Why would we invite people to be part of a religion? And I feel like I'm being kind, not using the cult word. Why would I invite people to be part of it?
That, B. You could be.
Well, here's the thing. By definition, it's a cult. That doesn't make it untrue. Just because by definition it's a cult and a religion doesn't weigh in on its truthfulness.
Well, let me ask you this then. Could it be God's way and then there's a bunch of cults?
Certainly.
See, because I think it's reverse thinking.
What if God just doesn't have a way, though? What if everybody's just trying to apply?
But He gave us a way. That's the whole
How
point.
did He give that to us? Because I didn't get the email.
No, Jesus. That's the whole point.
So God came to earth one time. He came as a man that didn't know He was God for a long time. We don't know 20 years of His life.
Yeah, He knew He was God.
We have very little historical record of Him. Then He figures out He's God, right? He started His first church at 12. Is that correct? But He didn't fully realize who He was until 30.
His ministry.
Started His ministry at 30. Didn't He start speaking in church at 12?
He was in the synagogues at 12 teaching the.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm saying, so this is the way the story really goes. There's an actual devil who revolts and takes a bunch of angels and comes down to ruin this somehow important little speck in the middle of one universe, in the middle of a vast, vast expanse full of universes. Well, I shouldn't be saying that. Galaxies, to be accurate. Somehow we're important, and this war is going on. And God sends His Son down here as a man who eventually figures out He's God, and we nail Him to wood and stab Him, and He dies. But don't worry, because He gets up again, and now it's all going to be okay. Tell me how that doesn't sound like a fairy tale, and how you would want that to be the story of God. I don't want a God that can get nailed to wood, or that would choose to, and that cares what I do with my wiener.
It's almost like your dad jumping in front of a car. I mean,
jumping in front of a car for what? See, He set the rules, so the game is rigged. Are you trying to prevent me from sin? You're the one that let the guy steal a third of the angels and start this whole mess.
But the whole thing was
the game's rigged.
The angels were here, right? So we don't know a whole lot about that. So it's hard to really speculate. But obviously,
real hard.
Something happened there when man was created. God specifically told man, hey, don't do this. And there was supposed to be communion between God and man on earth.
You really think God was right here on earth and somehow a lot of people don't know that? Somehow people forgot that and just don't worry about it.
I'm talking about in the beginning.
If it was true, you don't think it would be the most sacred knowledge on earth and nobody be doing anything else?
Wait, I'm lost.
Just like the Bible calls for?
Wait, back up. What do you mean? Like, I'm talking about the beginning, Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve.
You're saying if God was here, why wouldn't somebody go, what? Like, he's here. Like,
I'm saying if God had ever really been to earth, if we really started in a garden, just two people, do you really think that it would have spun into all of this and we would have forgotten that?
I didn't know. No, that's why it's still around, and that's why people are still dying for the faith. Like,
people are still dying for the faith because of a lot of reasons. Because all of these faiths that you guys are supporting, some of them call for that. All of them say that the other guy's wrong, that the other guy's an infidel, that the other guy's not one of us. So it causes separation by nature.
Christianity is all about...
No, it's only you can be one of us if you'll join the cult. Other than that, we're not allowed to be around you because you can't be unequally yoked.
No, that's talking about marriage, man. Like, and look, that's a marriage thing. That's not
really supposed to hang out with non-Christians.
That's not true. That's not true. B, if that was the case, then it would make our mission like nonsense.
You're supposed to try for a certain amount of time, right? And then if they just won't convert, it's
no, dude.
like...
I'm just living my life, honestly. I mean, when I'm talking about I'm commissioned, I'm not knocking on doors talking to people. Like, the Lord is putting me in positions throughout my life.
And that's the part I really want to get to, because let's be honest, you and I are not going to be the ones to have any kind of answers come out of our conversation as to whether this is real, who's right, who's wrong, the nuances of religion.
That's why
but the reason I love that the pin came out of it is just to illustrate that there is that much explosive keg behind it,
sure.
Right? Certainly, we all know this. And you've got that contained in your life, and you're applying these things as truth. It is 100%. It is your truth.
Absolutely.
And you're applying it in your life. That's the part I would love for you to tell people about because of how powerful it is in your life.
I mean, honestly, I think that the beginning of my life taught me that I think everything in my life was preparing me to walk with the Lord, like in the sense of this, to where whenever I did truly discover him, I looked back on my past and I realized that all that brokenness was actually to my advantage because I could go somewhere new and start over easy because of my my beginnings. So now that I'm with the Lord, and it's like one of those things as far as having these types of conversations and truly trying to just, it's not a warning like you got to pick us or you're going to die. It's like, it's not us, it's him. Like, I mean, like us Christians, like if you think about it, we're just an easy target because we're goofballs too, like everybody else, like in the sense to where we make the same mistakes. I mean, you find a Christian that's done something and it's like, whoa, dude, call in at the national. I mean, because he's a Christian and he got busted.
Saying that he gets slayed in the media or something, like a Dinesh D'Souza cheating on his wife kind of thing.
And that's terrible, dude. Like Dinesh is going to have to do what, I mean, but bro, I've made those mistakes and had to pay for it. Not cheated on my wife or none of that stuff, but just meaning any of my mistakes.
We all
There's
make
consequences to it, man, and it's embarrassing and all that stuff.
So if we're all so the same, why separate us? Why say we have God and you don't? Sure it is. No, you're even separated. This is what I also
We're definitely separated in this
way. The Catholic Church has controlled and owned Christianity for all of recorded human history that Christianity's been around.
Not true.
You're in a different sect of it. That pops up now.
That's not true, B. I'm not anywhere in that sect.
Really?
Not even close.
Oh, no. I'm not calling you Catholic.
Yeah.
I'm saying so that's what it's been this whole time.
Yeah.
And you guys are kind of a coffee shop version of Christianity compared to Catholicism.
No,
right?
we're the Jesus big cup.
But they're kind of the dungeon version of Christianity.
No, they're. I mean,
there's a lot of standing up and sitting down. And how come
there's more to Mary?
I can't just talk to God. I got to talk to a priest. What are you doing here, guy? What are you doing?
No, exactly. I mean, and that's
so it sounds foolish.
Look, Jesus is our high priest. When he did what he did, he not only became king, savior, he's our high priest forever.
Why is there any confusion then? If that's so true, how is Catholicism, if you're saying they don't have it right, how were they running the show the whole time? They were the NBA, and now you're some 19-year-old kid that pops up to play b-ball.
No. You got it backwards again, B. Like Jesus started from the beginning. Like, so in other words, he's not the b-ball guy.
But I'm saying your version of Christianity has been
It's
edited.
not my version. It's not my version. Here's the deal. The Bible speaks for itself. Like, in other words, it
does it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why does it take so many of you guys in front of grocery stores?
You know what? I think people feel compelled to do that. Like, as people are commissioned, like what I feel like God has compelled me to do is to be who I am.
Okay.
To be authentic, right?
That's beautiful.
Hang out with people that might think something
challenge
different.
you.
Who cares? Like, I like you.
As long as they respect you.
Absolutely. And it's been how long now since we've been friends?
10 or 11 years.
You've known for how long I've been a Christian?
That's right.
Okay, so it's like I don't judge you for any of that stuff. I like you because I like you. Amen. You know what I mean? Like, it's that with me.
I like you because I like you too. I have to ask the hard questions because those are the questions I want to ask.
Of course, dude. Like,
I take absolutely every answer right into my brain through my ears with a big dose of respect. I really do. I challenge it and I ask in the way that I think about it because I've arrived at this.
Of course.
See, I would have asked you different challenging questions on the other side of the fence 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I may ask different questions 5 years from now, and this is part of my journey.
Yeah.
And that's part of what trips me up about organized religion in any sense is it seems like it stifles everybody's journey. I'm on this good thing and I have no rules attached to it, and my life is functionally the best it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was really, really not good and people were doing not great things to me, it was when I was really involved in Christianity, organized religion, and churches.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I peeled away from that and those people, my life improved.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't want to talk people out of their religion. That would never be my goal. I don't want to talk people out of their faith, their belief, but I have to challenge it because all I want is the real truth.
Yeah.
Not the edited truth, not the embellished truth, not the pamphlet version of truth.
Mm-hmm.
I just want whatever the truth is.
Bro, you gotta put fire to some metal to see what actually is gonna be left, right? You're either gonna have gold in the bottom of the pan.
That's right.
Or you're gonna have a bunch of dross that means nothing.
And I know a lot of people that are actively seeking God that are very open to whatever that entity might be. And I have never had one of them tell me they ran into Jesus.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean by that? Like, I definitely did. Like, he knocked me off my horse. What do you mean by that?
I've had a lot of people share with me, excuse me, their experience of God, their wow moment.
Okay.
Right? None of them had a name tag. I got to be honest. I've heard a lot of really beautiful, epic stories. Nothing was the God of the old Bible, Job, stab your son. None of that, man. And certainly not the name Jesus, with the exception of the people that came into religion through the Christian church. So that's all they know about religion, or they've had average exposure to it, but this is where they came in the door. Everything's Jesus after that. This is Jesus' vape pen. You know, everything's Jesus, but it's like, hold on. Did you meet someone somewhere named Jesus, or did you get handed a pamphlet at the fucking mall? And I just don't see how anybody could argue that if a person with your belief structure inside your soul, your mind, your heart was born in another country, how you could argue with me that you wouldn't just be whatever was sort of the religion of that region, right?
I know. I totally see what you mean.
Because how come people aren't just born Christians at 5 years old in other countries, and everyone's going to like cite one that was in Newsweek or something and act like this is happening? But I'm saying, why does it occur that you mostly get Muslims in certain countries and mostly get Christians in certain countries? Doesn't it feel like it's kind of got a PR spin on it? Like we're a Christian nation? How many times have you heard we're a Christian nation?
Well, no, absolutely. I think different parts of the world, if you think about it, I mean, they don't accept Christianity. So, I mean, there's probably not going to be a big population of Christians living there. You know what I mean? So
completely fair.
And even if it's different,
but the internet exists.
No, totally.
Somebody could pop up and go, "Oh my gosh, I met a guy named Jesus in my sleep, and I live in the middle of this country."
You know what? Back to that really quick. I thought that was pretty interesting. As I was listening to you, you're like, you know, where did all of a sudden, like, where'd you meet him? Like, what happened?
No,
like,
please, please.
I think I'll tell you. For me, B, I'll tell you. Okay. I was at a point in my life. I was at a pretty. It wasn't a real tough spot, but it was one of my tough spots in life to where somebody just mentioned, "Hey man, maybe you should just give this Jesus a chance." All right. But I had people like planting these seeds along the way. Like when I worked offshore, when I first got out of high school, the one guy, there was only 4 of us out there, but the one guy, wanted to do Bible studies on certain nights. So I'm listening, and I'm like you, like I'm ready to get home. I'm ready to party. Like I just, that's not my thing. You know what I mean? And but it was just constantly there. So fast forward to 2009, and all of a sudden I go into church and I hear the gospel, and it's like something happened. Like, what was that? Like, okay. So I go back the next time. And this time I just know that this is the truth. Like, in other words, I did not question it. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No.
But this resonated. This is fact.
It resonated hard. And I knew that I had to get up in the end and truly go meet this Jesus, but I was too much of a coward at that moment. Okay. And I had a little bit of pride. I didn't want to get up in front of anybody. And I walked out again. Yeah. But I came back the following Wednesday. All right. And I walked up, and dude, I was bawling, man. Like I'm getting a little emotional now just because it's hard to explain, dude. How you explain that? Like, it's almost like, I see a lot of
people crying, church.
Yeah, it's almost like this. It's almost like, how do you explain that you are totally in love with this drug addict that has like robbed, stolen, like done all this stuff to you, but you just love that person. You know what I mean? And Jesus is it has to be experienced in this way. It's not like, oh, I got this little hidden treasure over here, you can't have it. It's like he's available to everyone. But it's almost, you have to, at that moment in my life, I wanted to understand if this dude was for real, because I had heard the whole time them talking about him, and I'd seen these guys. They didn't necessarily prove anything to me, or I thought that they were great people. It's just that I kept hearing the same message about him. And so anyways.
How do you find out if he's real? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you.
No. That's it. It's like, along the way, I just said, you know what? I'm going to travel this, and I'm going to go find it.
A journey.
I truly believe that the church I landed in mattered a lot, like in this way.
Okay.
The church that I landed in teaches the Bible in a word by word. You go through the books. Of course you skip around and reference, but the teaching is a continual.
A to Z.
Word by word. Like you go through the book of John, and then the next one you're going, you know what I'm saying? You just keep following.
And why do you think that matters? I'm curious.
Because once the word of God gets watered down, that's when you have a bunch of cults, and that's when you have a bunch of religions. And
How does it get watered down? I'm curious.
It gets watered down this way. If Jesus Christ said that it's him and him crucified, like in other words, if he's the one, and this man comes along and fulfills over 300 prophecies by himself, and Roman writers and secular writers write about this Jesus and the people, like 300, like Josephus is one of them to reference. Okay. He wasn't a Christian. He was Jewish, I believe.
What did he write?
He was a historian.
Okay. I mean, did he say he saw Jesus rise from the dead? Did he say he saw him cure blindness on a man? Like, what did he say?
So now we get a little bit closer to the action. In other words, when Josephus started writing, he had firsthand knowledge of, like, say for an example, it was like a generation away from all this happening. You understand? So it's like you being able to talk to
That's something I don't understand. Like, it wasn't written in the time of Jesus. This is much later, like most things.
Not much later, bro. Like, we're talking early. Like,
what's earlier? 30 years?
No. We're talking, I think Josephus, when he wrote it in 300 BC. No, 300 AD.
So 300 years after Jesus' birth. Yes. So Jesus would have been dead for like 170 years.
Yes.
So hold on. So guy 170 years would be the equivalent of us writing something about like
Think about it. What?
Colonialists or something. Like, so what? Anyways, why would there be that connect? Why would you write something 170 years later that becomes doctrine? What's the connection?
No, the kid was just born into that time. It wasn't like he decided to write it then. He was born.
And he wrote about Jesus. What did he write? Like, he couldn't write that he saw him.
No, he didn't just write about Jesus. He was writing about the Jews and their persecution during the time. Like, in other words,
170 years later?
I'm going to have to
10 years later would be too long. So
No. Okay, so maybe
why isn't it being written currently? That's what I'm asking. Like, where's we saw Jesus today.
There's current writings. That's why we have the Bible. We have Paul's writings. We have Luke's writings. We have John's writings.
Okay.
These were all people that walked with Jesus.
What do you say to people that follow Muhammad's writings? What do you say to them?
I don't say anything to them. Like, it's nothing that I have to say to them. It's.
What do you say to
Jewish
folks?
I think maybe that's what happened. That's what happens when it's not a religion against religion here. Like,
well, sure it is.
No, it's not.
Some of you kill each other.
Some
literally.
Well, Christians don't do it.
A lot of people in the name of Christianity did, whether they were acting as good Christians or not. I mean, let's talk about it.
Okay, yeah, a lot of people call themselves Christians, but there's only a few Christ followers. Like in the same, when I say few, that sounds arrogant.
Who gets to claim it, right?
No, well, the people that are actually doing the word of God. That's the people
who's doing the word of God, though.
You will be able to see them by their fruits. Like you will be able to tell.
Constantine.
No, well, I don't. Why would you throw him in there?
Did he do the work of God? I'm curious.
I have no idea. Like I'm not. I haven't even really studied him. Like,
okay,
I'm sure.
Sorry. I didn't mean to throw you off.
I just mean this. Like, let's just go back. You have to experience it for yourself, and I think this is the whole point. If you truly want life, you'll seek it. If you want to live your own life, you'll just do that.
Right.
Like I said, I think that if someone's walking through life and they just go, you know what, I just want to live a peaceable life. I want to do my own thing. Mm-hmm. Man, that's their life.
Sure, they're going to go to hell.
I'm not going to go to them and say, dude, you're going to.
Somebody knocks on my door.
Well, no. People talk.
Another sect, another cult.
Yeah, exactly. You probably got two of them that
run
through the neighborhood. So they're cultish
because they knock on the door.
Well, no, I don't mean
that. They talk about Jesus.
It's the wrong Jesus.
I mean, you see where it gets confusing, though.
Of course.
So what are we to believe?
Hey, well, if you have a deceiver, what do you think he's out to do?
Sell me a religion.
Exactly. There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, brother.
But there's only one Jesus.
Sure. That doesn't mean that he's the way, the truth, and light.
Well,
he told me he was. But see, that's cyclical reasoning. You understand that, like, evidentially, what we use for evidence in a current setting, and even just for common sense, we have to discard a lot of hearsay. And certainly anything that was written about a murder 30 years, 170 years after the murder, we wouldn't be like, well, it was the inspired word of anybody. We would just completely disregard it. So most of what we have as evidence implies that time is magic, that if we take words and we put them in clay jars and we put them in sand, and then lots and lots of time goes by, that somehow that made it the truth. Just because it's really old doesn't mean that it was the truth.
So these archaeologists that are digging up stuff, dude, you just totally discount that whole practice?
I discount absolutely nothing. They're digging up Göbekli Tepe. Let's talk about that. This was obviously a religious center. It didn't have anything to do with Christianity. Well, that's weird. Huh? Neither does anything in South America or anything in Thailand. I mean, we could just name the world over and find these mega structures that imply monumental societies, ongoing societies that had no concept of any of these gods that we deal with today. So it leads me to believe that this is going to become passé. Like, you used to worship Zeus. Today it's sort of fashionable to worship Muhammad or Christ. And in 500 years, it'll be something else.
I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, there could be someone else, but there's only one Jesus.
So tell people why you believe so much in him and only him. Where did you get information outside of it was handed to you that you just know this guy is what he says he is? Tell people about your personal experiences.
Basically, he did what he said he would do, and there's not been another person that
did he do?
Died on the cross and rose again.
Well, you believe that?
I definitely.
I asked for a personal experience, though.
Oh, my personal experience? I tell you what, the personal experience is all within your interaction with the Bible. So, in this sense, okay? So,
tell us about the Bible then.
The Word of Promise audio Bible is something that has put me on full tilt.
Okay, cool. What's good about it?
It's the Bible audio form, and I can get 5 chapters in no time. Meaning it's pouring into my brain. Like you said, I'm being brainwashed. I'm definitely scrubbing the brain with the Bible. There's no doubt.
I feel like it's definitely brainwashing. Any way you slice it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Read this, only this. Start here every day, every morning, every night. Only this.
Well, it's not
Don't go out into the world. Don't look at that stuff. Just this.
You could still go out in the world.
It's real cultish though, man.
I totally agree.
You don't need to read the same book.
No,
over
I
and
totally
over
agree
again.
with you.
That.
But like I said, it's cultish in the sense of it came afterwards. So cultish after the truth is always bad. So cult, that word is just bad. But Jesus is not bad.
Okay. Tell people about Jesus though, because this is the part that always prevents me from gaining understanding from the main points in our conversations. Okay. Everything I feel my opinion.
Doorbell.
You guys want to pause just real quick?
Yeah, pause.
So I think that we left off on one of the big points that I get stuck on with religion, and there's been many. So I think probably what would benefit me the most to hear is your very personal journey. And let me clarify, the stuff that I sort of find offensive now is the same old regurgitated Luke this and 3:16 that, and like, I get it. We've all been reading the same book for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Your personal journey with Christ. I'd love to hear, like, where did you meet Christ?
Yeah, gotcha.
Where did he come into your heart, and this is a real person to you now, and your life changes immediately? Just tell people that.
Yeah. I like I said, when I was in that church, I finally I walked up, gave my life to the Lord, and I felt within me that things had changed already, like from that decision for some reason. Like I said, you have to experience it. It sounds hokey. But I go home and I immediately start reading to try to find out. But immediately I started feeling like there was like I started having a different like look on everything. Like I'm like, oh my God, like there's a spiritual world out here that I was like clueless. I mean, I didn't think about spiritual stuff. I thought like,
sure.
You know,
and when you say spiritual stuff, I know the Bible talks about this war going on around us and literal demons, which I'd love to get to in a minute. But in the meantime, when you say spiritual stuff, are you talking about your soul has a ledger? This matters.
Yeah. I mean, like I felt that like almost like a little bit of a puffiness of like purpose, if you will, like, you know, just from that decision. So as I'm reading and I'm going through, I'm really starting to kind of dive in, and I'm making some pretty drastic changes in the sense to where, you know, I used to kind of like fix my hair and stuff like that. I took that off, like kind of what it is now.
You're a good looking man. You pull it off well.
Back then I was like, I'm not going to focus on anything like that. I took like these, I had porno tapes that I had in the shoebox. I like put it under a faucet and just drenched it and then threw it in the trash.
You don't want the raccoons getting into the big butts.
You know, I thought to ruin it, you know, just in case if a kid got a hold of it or something, you know what I mean? Like, cool. So anyways, I just started making some changes like that. But during that time, as I'm growing with the Lord, I'm like falling in love with this God, like in the sense of like finally feeling like somebody would truly be there for me. Like, because I had experienced a lot of opposite.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Could it be coincidence that you picked up the Christian Bible? You just needed someone to be there for you. And if you had picked up a Quran, if you had picked up the works of somebody that maybe you would have gotten involved with that person, like an L. Ron Hubbard spawns
absolutely
a religion?
No, it definitely could have been, like, you know what I mean? Those vulnerable moments for anybody. I mean, sure. you're really susceptible to, like, you know, a lot of different things, whether it be drugs, alcohol, religion.
So
you know.
Where does the truth come out for
exactly.
you?
So where I landed, it's true. I think somebody else could stumble in different doors and go down a different path. Like I said, for me, and it always goes back to there is only one of these Jesuses, and it's like when I started understanding who he was, that's when I truly started understanding that he wouldn't abandon me. You know what I mean? Like he meant what he said, and he was going to back it up. When you say he wouldn't abandon
you, what do you mean? Like, how's he there for you, and what would you feel if he abandoned you?
Just meaning this, like, so far, everything being 100% accurate on his prophecies, like being fulfilled, like by this man. That in itself is like kind of what gets my motor running.
Isn't it kind of easy to say prophecies were fulfilled when you write the book, though? Can't you just take the Old Testament, start writing the New Testament, and just say, well, he made a prophecy there, so I'm going to fulfill it here. He made a prophecy there, I'll fulfill it here.
But you remember how we were talking about Isaiah, though, right? Like, so when they discovered this in 1932, this was talking about, like, they wrote it like shortly after Christ died in the Qumran community. And that's where they found it in the caves. Anyways, to make a long story short, you've already got that piece. So that's already docked in history.
So wait.
Right?
Some people, years after Jesus' death, copied what? The Old Testament and wrote some new things?
No, like specifically, I don't know. I honestly, bro,
everything that's in it. That's fair. We're not archaeologists, but
once I got on the Jesus bandwagon, I read the Bible, but I'm not like up to date, like on the Dead Sea Scrolls, or like.
But don't you feel like you should be? Like, if
oh
this
no,
is
I mean
all
it's
that's going on.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be all that people study and they're up on and they're into?
Enough of Jesus though, so it's almost like
you're just reading the same book over and over again though.
And now I'm listening to it, and it just made a world of difference.
Now, don't get me wrong, but that's where I say the brainwashing thing. That's literally exactly how we brainwash people.
I agree.
Right?
I totally agree with you.
We would put them on substances
that
in a vulnerable moment
we
might create. We would literally put headphones on them and just pump information into their ears for hours on end.
No, I totally agree with you, 100%.
So what's the differentiation?
That conversion.
Well, that's just fanaticism.
Yeah, okay, but
you just believe a fairy tale harder doesn't make it truer.
No, I'm talking about the actual conversion, though. I'm not talking about my belief. Like, in other words, what was actually happening when I was sitting in the church those 3 times, it wasn't like I wasn't going to commit to this religion. It was something that grabbed a hold of my heart. Like in these messages, it was talking about, and like I said, I wish I could remember, dude, because that would be such a crucial, or not crucial, but that would be so cool for me to be able to remember what the pastor was talking about. I just remember when he was explaining it, I was like no way. And then the next time it was like, okay, this is starting to make sense. Then I start discovering for myself. So the conversion is what I'm talking about. If nobody really experiences that, it's really hard to say how, what this, what that. Like,
okay, what would they experience though? What's the moment? What happens? Like, it's all a fairy tale one moment, and then the next, I'm buying T-shirts at Walmart in pastel colors. He is risen.
Wait. What do you mean? What do you mean? Say it again.
What's the moment of belief? I mean, what's the spark? You're reading it, and it's this crunchy book full of old terminology and a lexicon we don't use anymore, and then all of a sudden, it's the truth.
Yeah,
what's the moment?
Yeah, all of that. When
did Jesus talk to
that
you?
First year of my walk with him, I was digging, bro. Like, in other words,
digging. I know what you mean.
In the scriptures, like I was like literally, and then I would actually go and want to know about those other religions, so I started like reading up on them too. Like, I was doing a little bit of research like that, but I started
like in any of the other religions. Anything intriguing?
One of the things that kept coming up was there was always a Jesus in it somewhere, but it wasn't the one that actually did the work.
So you're talking about other sects of Christianity. So you're saying within Christianity, I could believe in Christ and still have it wrong.
Man, Christianity is such a broad word. Like, I mean, a Christ follower.
You wouldn't think it'd be that way if God came to earth and gave us these things, right?
Well, if there's a deceiver, there would be.
Can we talk about Satan?
Yeah.
I have always struggled. Even when I was in church and went, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm definitely feeling something. I'm feeling an energy in the room. I'm feeling overwhelmed with emotions. Yes, this might be true. So somebody had posed to me, can you believe I believe? And could you act as though you believe to see if it feels right when you try it on? And so I did that, right? But I always struggled with a few key concepts. And one of them is that Satan, the source of all evil, is walking around in clothing, wearing shoes, doing something on earth today. That sounds outlandish to me, and I think it should.
Yeah,
because I have an IQ over 7.
No, that's weird.
70. Yeah, keep going. It should sound.
Yeah,
pretty,
I don't
ludicrous.
Picture him like that. It's like I said.
Well, but that's supposed to be the literal case of it, right?
No. Like, Satan is a spirit too. Like, if you think about where it all started, I mean, this is all a spiritual thing. Like I said, you know, if you start with the spiritual and then the physical, for me, it makes sense. And I think that it's like, if you go physical, it's not everything is driven off of the spiritual. Like, so in other words, that's what, I mean, our souls, I mean, that's what makes decisions, right? I mean,
I agree with you. You said something really beautiful earlier that I 100% agree with, my man. You said this is our astronaut suit, right?
Yeah, it's our spacesuit, dude.
This is our spacesuit. I totally
It really is, dude, because if you think about it, you go to the moon, you need another one. Yeah. So if we're in a galaxy upon galaxies and we can't even get to the moon without another spacesuit, then there's something bigger happening here. Like, in the sense of, bet. So
of course there's something bigger happening.
And that's
here.
What's another.
But the question is, does it care what I do with my dick?
Well, and that's
you know what I mean?
Thing.
Like, really, like I keep coming back to that example because to me, that's the most juvenile, that's the most vulgar, that's something people would write. Like, really, we're gonna write rules about who people can sleep, but that's a human thing, man. The God of the universe doesn't care. There's no way.
Well, I mean, yeah, he does. I mean, well, I'll put it to you like this.
Why? Why would we have a system like that? Why would you create something like that?
I think it's a beautiful thing in a marriage, like the way he
Sure.
created it. You
But
know what
hold
I
on,
mean?
Claire.
Like, so in other words, like he created it for really good. Like, I mean,
But-
obviously people
But
have
the divorce
sex
rate in the Christian church
absolutely
is the
Scott,
same
absolutely.
because we're all the same. We're just humans.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem. Maybe we should stop with the walls and the division is my whole
absolutely
mantra.
I mean,
but-
be like we just said for 10 years, bro.
yeah, there's no walls as long as
like
you'll all come be one of us, right?
No.
As long as you believe the same thing
No,
we do. There's
what we
lots
were-
of Kool-Aid to go around.
what we
got
were
lots
talking
of
about
pictures.
earlier. Rewind, like what we were talking about earlier. For 10 years, we've known, like, you
Sure.
know, our differences and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah, man, it's just more fun to talk about now.
But I just say, like, I've never judged you in that way, dude. I've always, like, considered you really close. And that, I guess maybe that should say something in the sense to where if I am screaming about this God, about love and acceptance and all this stuff, and he died for everyone, and you got a friend that has, like, dude, I wouldn't say I've been by your side, but man, when we've talked about some pretty tough stuff, you know what I mean?
bet.
And it's like, and I've been there
We've been
for
there for
you,
each other.
you know what
You
I mean?
bet.
And you've been there for me, and
bet.
it's been reciprocal. And that's the beauty of it, bro, because I can sit here and say, I believe in this God. And
You don't
can
want
say,
me to miss out.
and that, or I still want you to live it however you want, bro. Like that life over there is nothing to do with my life here. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And if you're happy sitting in that chair and I'm happy sitting in this chair, I love that. Like,
And
in
if
a
that
sense.
was the way of the world, that would be so beautiful, bro. But the problem is the church historically
Of
has
course,
run
man, there's
around and told
goofballs. I mean, if you
everybody-
think about it, I
but
mean,
not
there's-
goofballs. The whole religion as we have it documented has been pretty rough.
I mean, I
on
say
humanity,
goofballs. I
dude.
just think that there's like just
you can
in
feed
anything.
people and hand out blankets
Exactly.
without all the other nonsense.
I agree with you, bro. Look,
Right.
it's just like everything else. There's like when even the religions, like what you were talking about, there's so many sects of these religions, right? Just the same as whenever you got this true Christianity, there's several sects of the Christianity world. You know what I mean?
It makes
And
it
it's
really
like,
tough on all of us. Is my point.
Absolutely, dude.
You
Like,
know,
I
for there to
totally
be
get
only
it.
one truth, so cut all
Hey,
the other continents and
I got
world
something
out,
for you.
and then within this truth,
I got
another
something
truth.
for you.
Please.
I think it's cool that I can sit here and our friendship has been what it has been over these years, right?
Absolutely. Man.
So whenever we talk about, like, you know, this religion, that religion, you've heard me say the same one the whole time, and you've known me. We now have 10 years for you to be able to judge on that.
You're right.
You feel me? Like, in other
And I'm
words,
gonna
we're
say
not
some
walking
really-
into it blind. Like, you're not
Oh,
just
no.
interviewing me like the first time. Like, we know each other. So
We do.
you can judge my Christianity and no, the dude is solid. Like, in the sense to where that's my brother, right? Like, I mean, and we don't see eye to eye. And that's, dude, I still love you.
I love you too,
I don't
man.
think that'll change. You know what I mean?
No, but I want you to understand that just like you portrayed to me, that you have this overwhelming sense that my soul could be in danger, right? I've talked to my mom about this recently. She prays for me. That if your system of belief is true, that I need to make some changes because my soul, the future of my existence, could be in jeopardy. And you feel this peril and this overwhelming need to, like, help a brother out. You care
I mean,
about
that's
somebody
your
you
mama,
want to help
though.
them.
I mean, that's, you know, I mean,
I
she's
feel
got that feeling for you, I'm sure, right? I
Well,
mean,
my point is that I picture her sitting up nights worried about my soul when I'd really like her to be doing other things.
I agree.
With her
Yeah,
headspace.
yeah,
But
of
here's my
course.
point. I feel the same way when I see one of my friends in a cult for 10 years.
I agree with you.
I want
Yeah.
to maybe get a person to a place they could evaluate whether that's the truth or not. And if it's your truth, you do it. And that's what I try to do
that
through
the
these
doorbell?
conversations.
I don't think
No.
it was. Right before you said that, B, it's interesting to me. Like I said, I
Mhm.
mean, we've got our 10 years together. And I think that, like, you don't see me trying to convert you. Like, in other words, I understand
Actually,
your mama. Okay,
constantly.
so no, not necessarily. No, that be fair about that. Not when we talk about trying to convert you. Like, when we talk about it,
I
B,
say that tongue in cheek with
I
love.
stand on my truth, but I'm not like, you know, I'm not putting like, come on, man. Like you have to figure it out. And there was a period in your life, bro, to where you were kind of walking with me too. You know what I mean? To where
I tried. Can I
exactly like
let me lift the pin on something with you though that I think
yeah.
is worth talking about, because you were talking about the different sects, and right on this topic.
Yeah.
I've watched you argue with a pastor. Right. And it's okay. You guys had differing opinions in a church and a Bible study.
Yes.
I'm in a Bible study trying to learn about the
Yeah,
religion.
yeah.
This is very confusing for me. It was one of the things that eventually ended up coming back up in my mind and kind of turning me off to it. And I fault neither of you for it. It was the fact that two men from the same country, from the same state, from the same city, from the same town, with the same God could stand in a room and argue until people leave over what the truth is. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Neither of these humans could possibly have the truth.
But me and you are doing it.
You and I
we're arguing it. Like, I mean,
debating it in a setting for it, though. It's very different than a Bible study when we're just trying to round robin.
No, that's true.
So hold on. I'm not judging you either, and I don't want you to get that.
No,
in
actually,
any way.
I wouldn't mind if you did, because like I said, from the last conversation, I don't mind you speaking your truth with me. Like,
no, this is my truth. I try to wear my heart on my sleeve actively. I'm being very real with you. I'm asking, if those differences are so severe, how do we know what the truth is, and how can you be so sure that your little tiny slice of what started as a whole pie is definitely what's definitely accurate, you know?
See, but I mean, there's a theme in this, I think, whenever you listen back on it. I think you keep putting, like, I think that God is like the small little thing. Like, God is the big thing. And then there's a bunch of little things.
So why argue the nuances? Why all the different
It's not arguing. Listen, and look, I think it's just like for you and I. Like
why was there an argument? You see what I'm getting at? Like, grown men sat in a room loudly talking to each other, debating.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking you and I. Okay,
saying,
back
like,
then.
If it's so important, how can two guys down the street, one of them has it right and the other one's definitely going to hell? Like, where are we at with this whole thing? I don't get it. And it seems like a big waste of a lot of human energy that you could put into actual self-improvement instead of just memorizing this old book. Mm-hmm. You see the argument.
I do get it, but I mean, you know I'm doing all right though, right? Like, I mean, just meaning like I guess it's not a situation to where I know whenever you talk about like cults and stuff like that, it's not as if I'm strung out right now and I can't figure something out. Like, you know where my mind is and where it's been for 10 years. So it's like,
well, you remember though that the reason, and I'm going to preface by saying that earlier you made a comment about a night that I wasn't trying to cover the ground on again, right? And I'm not going to do it now. So people might be wondering, hearing the story, like if I was just flat out cruel to you or something. There's nuances to it, and I love the hell out of you, man. I wouldn't do that to you on purpose, right? It was a moment, and we've already talked about it. We unpacked it on our own, but you know, and I'm sorry I lost my train of thought with that. I just kind of wanted to apologize to you so that people understood that there was a huge level of respect here, but a very differing opinion.
But it got us both like, and actually I felt so calm that night, but I felt terrible that the room was worked up. Like, that's what bothered me.
It's like, I was like, I don't want to. It's a weird subject to bring up in a casual setting ever, if you think about it. Like, this is your everlasting soul, the most important decision you'll ever make in your whole life. You want to talk about over this fucking ice cream cone?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
No.
You want to talk about over dinner?
No, I agree.
You want to talk about in this aisle in Walmart? How about take this pamphlet and let's talk about it in front of Walmart?
No, I totally agree with you.
It's a really awkward conversation, any angle you approach it from.
No, I get you. I get you.
Calm down, and here's something.
I think me and Justin, I was talking to him that night, and I literally I felt like I usually wherever I go, I don't mind talking about him, like Jesus meaning, and so I wanted to make sure that it was okay. So I made sure that I asked everybody. So I even think that.
But it's what I love about you, Jacob, and that's where I said earlier I was going to jump in and say some really nice things about you, because I do want to clarify on those points about our previous conversation and people listening. You and me have been tight for a long time, for work reasons, for spiritual reasons, just because we like each other.
Yeah.
A lot of reasons. I think the butting of heads had to do with the fact that this is presented to all of us in society like this super duper big deal we got to talk about all the time in front of Walmart and at dinner parties, and it's this big thing. And so then it becomes a big deal, it becomes emotional, there's pressure to make a decision. That's an explosive situation.
Yeah,
it really is. But
I totally agree with you.
Let me say this, and that's why I don't feel that it's appropriate for dinner parties. I had 2 in a row where the topic of conversation was Jesus, and that can be cute.
Yeah.
But it exploded both times because people just want to eat a meal sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Yeah.
There's tables for it. But let me say this. Here come the compliments. Man, what I love about my friends of faith is that you're on a journey by definition, that you're exploring, that you're open to something bigger than yourself, and that you're willing to jump into that vastness, not knowing if you have a chute on or if you have to build one on the way down or how far down is.
Yeah.
That's powerful in a person's life, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's a warrior class individual. That is a person that is willing to tear themselves down to rebuild better.
To look like a goofball, to look like an idiot.
We all do.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I started filming the show missing 2 teeth, and it wasn't my fault. That was very difficult to get over.
I thought that would actually work for you, bro. Like, honestly, like I just
they got one look at me and they wanted to know where to buy their weed. Yeah, the sales were great. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. But no, it was embarrassing. It was tough. But sometimes the conversations are more important than the ego.
I totally agree.
And that's why I wanted to say what I said.
No, I appreciate that, B. Like, I think that we could truly, I truly think that we could travel this life together, believe in something totally different.
Of course.
But
we can.
Our friendship wouldn't change. Like, I mean, I think that night kind of clarified some things for me in a way to where it was like, first of all, I understood probably what I look like to people. And I actually was inspired by it. But I was inspired in a way to where I wanted to make sure that I was always going to approach it very respectfully, not speak about it if somebody didn't want to talk about it, like really truly grow from the experience, like not look at it like I'm embarrassed or not. Man, I felt so like it was a good moment for me in my life to, like, because a lot of the ground I've been tilling, bro, like meaning just looking like a freaking fool sometimes, like being a Christian and like, being divorced or, you know what I mean? Just like looking like an idiot traveling this path.
That's not looking like an idiot, man. That's just being human.
Well, I know, but I just mean like this, like, especially because you would have to agree, Christians probably get judged a little bit harder than most people because we are standing in front of a Walmart and we're
no. I think their actions get held up side by side to their own standards, and people
agree with you.
The fuck Christians, why are you stealing from us and cheating on your wife?
Exactly.
You get held up to your own standards. I don't think you get picked on.
No. I agree, but
if you're in China, sure.
Yeah,
that's a different topic.
That persecution.
But in America, I think Christians are persecuted? No. I think it's weird when you take popsicle sticks on your Bible and walk around school with it. That's what I think. I think it's off-putting to people because everything's off-putting to people at first, and then they figure out, well, that's not weird. That's actually pretty cool. And that person was bold, and this is a neat action. And now I kind of want to know what they're talking about, and you get into like the Greg Laurie story. Sure. Right? Yeah. Things can appear weird on the surface when they're really beautiful because it happens all the time.
Yeah. If you think about it like this, I want to say this, like if we're talking about this Jesus and you're like, how do you know who he is and like all this stuff, right?
I still haven't heard.
Yeah, I know. I remember. That's why I'm bringing it up because I know that you've asked it like a couple of times and I want to make sure.
Like, no offense, it sounds like you read something somebody told you to read and what you read told you it was true, so you believed it. And then it told you to keep reading it and act how it tells you to act. And also talk to other people about it. Cults require recruitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing, B. Like, when we talk about Christianity, you have to remember it was Christ and then a bunch of cults. Like, maybe there was cults before. Well, maybe there was cults before, but what
all you got to do is open a history book. Okay, there were cults for 12,000 years.
No, I totally agree with you. I definitely, I agree with you there. Like,
so why are those fake? But this one's real?
Meaning this, like, even if you had to, like, say for an example, pick out something that was the certain color in order to win the prize, and there's like 100 pieces on the ground, you had to pick the right one, right?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is when you talk about cults, it's like there's the truth and then there's cults. You know what I mean? Like, you would have to agree, right?
That's what the show's about.
Yeah. So
why is yours the truth?
So that's what I'm saying. I guess maybe it couldn't. The truth is because he's the only one that actually did it. Like,
that's what the book you read told you.
Okay.
Did you see it?
No.
That's fair. I didn't see World War II, so no problem there. Let's keep going. Have you talked to a guy named Jesus?
Yes, I have.
And he's definitely Jesus. He identified himself as Jesus. It couldn't just be a God, the God.
Through the word of God?
No, not through what you read.
Okay, all right.
You personally, I gotta know. Have you talked to a guy named Jesus?
Yes, absolutely.
What's he look like?
I haven't. No. Oh, you mean in person? That's where I got confused last time, and he got mad at me. Okay, look, it's I've never. Yeah, exactly. Never in person. Okay, so
how did he identify himself as Jesus when he spoke to you in your heart?
Now you have to remember, I have read. Okay,
sure,
so even though
yeah, your knowledge has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, so putting it together as far as like his nature, his character, and then I started wanting to kind of like be better. You know what I mean? Like, and if there's $10 on the ground, don't pick it up and put it in my pocket. Like, literally try to discover maybe somebody's truly gonna miss that. You know what I mean? Like,
do we need circumcision for that?
No, and you don't need it now. Just the circumcision of heart.
But for like at least 1,000 years, we definitely needed circumcision. Couldn't you make those same judgment calls without the dogma?
What do you mean?
I think you're starting to describe to me this change in your life where suddenly you're this guy that wouldn't pocket a 10. You're going to go turn into the front counter. Did Jesus create that change in you? And do you need Jesus for that? I'm honestly asking.
I think the conversion is done in the Holy Spirit through Jesus, meaning like I don't really want to try to understand that too much.
Like, because I don't even better immediately.
It just not necessarily immediately. No, like there were still some things, like say for an example, even though I was digging in the Word, like I told you that first year.
Okay.
Like say for an example, there was like maybe a couple of weeks after that conversion, I'm out partying with the friends.
Sure.
Like there's still things that are in my life that are like, I wasn't necessarily ready to give up it in my own, you know what I mean? My own desires.
You need to follow the rules, right? You just haven't done it.
In my heart, just started feeling like, well, when I go sleep with boo-boo or whatever, and then I wake up the next day and it's like, I feel like dog crap. Like, I don't want to feel like that anymore.
So because you don't like hangovers and you prefer being a dad, Jesus must be God?
Not necessarily.
Not at all necessarily.
But just in my heart, I'm saying, like, you know, the way that
that's what I haven't heard this whole time is a conversation with some entity that distinctly identifies itself, even if just through presence, as Jesus, that you've had some connection to, conversation with. Yeah. Where was the moment of conversion? What was the conversation, even if internal? Like, what's the connection outside of what you read all the time? I can pick that up at the mall. I can get that for free.
Yeah, well, B, I don't know how else to explain it, because literally you could back every Christian in a corner and say, prove it to me. And it's like,
not prove it to me. I keep asking for this personal moment. When did you first talk to God?
In that church that day when I walked down the aisle and I accepted him as my Lord.
Sounds like bravery and adrenaline rush. What did God say to you?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been all of those things. It could have been a phony deal, but I'm telling you, if you experienced it, or
I have, and that's why I know
what
you felt.
Yeah,
the fact that you felt something, what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you that I came out on the other side, that I realized that what I was feeling was a giant room full of emotionally charged people that come here to cry. This is their place to be emotional. They can't do it at home in front of their husband or in front of their wife or at their job. That's why people are so emotional in church, and they come here in this room full of human energy. Is vibrating, it's undulating, and it feels powerful to say, I want to be part of that. And you walk up there and you feel something. And then this person that's up there, you know, dressed like a wizard, like the fucking Pope or you know, whoever it is up front there that's been lifted up literally on a stage and lights on them. They're obviously important.
Right.
And they touch you and they tell you something good's going to happen. Of course we get caught up in that pageantry. Of course we feel something.
No, I agree.
And then I went home and I went, Jesus, where you at, bro? Where's he at? Where's your guy? So here's my point. Am I saying Jesus isn't the way, the truth? I don't know. I'm saying I don't know, but I'm saying it's really dangerous to run around telling everybody it's definitely the truth. It's causing wars. It's causing deaths. And only one of you gets to be right. So what do you say to everybody else? It sounds like this isn't just about like your little personal journey as much as it's all that for me. This is affecting all of us. Religions are affecting the globe, man.
Like I said, for 10 years, how have I affected you in a way that's been negative? Honestly.
That would be like being a really nice participant in a community that turned out to be like Weasley Black in his guts terrorist, right? Like a Leanne Bowman, where it's like, you're like, hey, man, just because I'm a total commie and I want America to fall doesn't mean I don't mow my lawn. You're part of a belief structure that's affecting the entire world. That's worth considering.
Okay.
Christianity, if you're being a reasonable adult, looking at our history as we take it, as we have recorded from independent sources and say, yeah, this is probably the truth. Don't you think it's probably stifled human growth?
Maybe,
and countless
I don't know.
people, it's stifled humanity's progress. I mean, they used to jail scientists over the truth. They used to, Galileo's a famous example. The Catholic Church in particular has done a lot of really dramatic damage to human progress. But I'm saying maybe all these belief systems as a whole, I mean, they're basically the reason the Middle East is divided. Only one of you gets to be right, which means everybody else is just killing people for no reason. You don't feel some responsibility to that when you get to just drive through Starbucks and show up at Freedom Church on the weekend and go, oh, yeah, I'm a Christian.
No, man.
That's part of a system. Man. That'd be like, oh, I'm just a nice communist.
No, B, I think my life is like, it speaks for itself, bro. It's been no cakewalk. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like this isn't like some journey to where you get to bypass everybody in line and stick your nose in the air. Like, this is not it at all.
Exactly what it is.
No,
it's not. I'm going to be real specific. I was literally told by
use our
a man
relationship.
named
I'm a
Kent in this
Christian.
community
Hold
that I
on.
couldn't come to his church, Riverview Baptist Church on the corner of 42 and 54. I'm sure the whole church was not being spoken for by this man. But that specific church,
that's interesting.
In 2018, I was told at a conference table, oh, you wouldn't be allowed to come to my church because all your tattoos and nonsense.
For real? I mean, honestly, B,
Get fucked.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
they're the most judgmental people on earth, man. Come on.
I mean,
come on.
Of course, that's terrible, dude.
Come on, you know it. Hey, but why do you want to be part of that club? Tell people why to be a Christian.
That's not my club, bro.
It's totally a club, man.
That's not my club, B.
They're speaking for you.
No, they're not speaking for
they're
me.
They're a church on the corner.
They're
I can
not
be there
speaking
in 10
for
minutes.
me, B. You can't say that, bro, because then everybody that says something is speaking for you.
But you're not speaking for Jesus, because all I've heard you reiterate so far is everything that the church already told us, that we already know, that I can see on glossy magazines they'll mail on my doorstep. What's the personal experience that would make a person want to be a Christian?
I told you, the internal parts start changing, man. My heart, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that whole journey of like going through all those battles and understanding that, wait a second, that actually worked to my benefit. Like, so now that my soul is being converted, it says that we're created new. So it's like, as I'm going through this transformation and reading at that time, my soul was on fire for like more of the spiritual side of life. And I stopped sleeping with my girlfriend.
Okay.
I like I said, I started making some pretty drastic changes. I did that for a year. And then I went back into Egypt, if you will. Like I went back into the world for another 4 years. I got lost in that sucker and got whooped. Like meaning had a child. Like, you know, with this woman I almost married, like, you know, I'm trying on the tux in the fitting room, like for my marriage, and decided not to do it. Like it was just it was an incredible nightmare. Like,
I'm sure.
I mean, it's been a nightmare for a while in my life. But anyways,
how does Jesus swoop in and save that?
He didn't do anything there. Like that whole thing was, I walked away. I literally walked away. And then once I got all the way to the bottom of that pit, I realized, wait a second, what am I doing over here? Like I serve a God that forgave me for all this stuff, and I'm lying over here in all this guilt.
He only has to forgive you for the rules he made up. That seems kind of sadistic, right?
But I'm going
to make these rules up, and I'm not actually going to hand them to you, and I'm not actually going to put them in stone.
But you keep asking me the personal side, right?
Yeah.
The conversion in the heart, brother, is what I'm trying to explain. As I'm over here dabbling in all this garbage, it feels terrible.
But my point is, you're willing to believe what sounds like a fairy tale just to feel better than you felt.
This is my own experience. Hold on, wait a second. This is my testimony, brother. Like I'm giving you the truth. In other words, I don't think you know I wouldn't fluff your pillows, bro. Like I would tell you straight.
Sure.
As I'm going through all this stuff, and I start realizing that it tastes terrible. I don't really want to do the same things. Like I'm in a nightclub going, what am I doing here? This feels terrible. Like, you know, when you get to the point, it's like, you know, it's like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So I just got to it at a point to where I felt terrible, and I decided to like literally start going to church and doing that kind of thing. And it's life versus life here on earth. It's almost like it tastes
better. Couldn't you have made that change without religion?
Maybe. I don't know. I think what was happening in my heart was Christ. I think that somebody could experience that on a treadmill or something. You know what I mean? Like it's truly, you know, trying to train their body or whatever.
Sure.
You could probably get lost in a lot of that stuff. My conversion and everything that happened to me was because of Christ. And I know that sounds like I'm going to heaven and you're not. That's not that. That's
literally what it is.
Okay, but listen, B.
It's fine. You're going to do what every Christian does, and you're going to talk around it and fluff it and tell me about a wooden sign. It is literally,
are you gonna
I got it and you don't, and you're going to hell, right? Please do.
Okay, because I didn't walk into this room with Jacob's opinion on it. There was already an opinion, something written already. Like both.
So I'm going to hell, but it's God's opinion.
Listen, hold on.
That is where we're going.
I tell you what, I don't know if you're going to hell or not. I honestly believe that. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen, B. Just like this conversion and everything, all these businesses and stuff like that.
Right? From everybody. All I want to hear is...
bro, you are not... Listen,
I don't know.
You could curse him out, and it doesn't matter. None of that stuff
I don't yell at unicorns.
You know... Okay, so...
no reason to curse at anybody.
Anyways, from now on, as far as when we talk about a Christian, we have a 10-year relationship. You can judge me. Like, in other words, let's not talk about... I don't want to judge
an individual person, though.
But let's not talk about the God with the rules. Let's talk about Jacob as your friend, like meaning that, like.
But unfortunately, that's like saying, let's talk about Jacob, my friend, who's part of a Russian spy network. It's like, well, hold on. There's more to evaluate here. You're Jacob, my friend, no matter what. That part's done. But to evaluate a person, I'm sorry. Was that?
I'm so sorry to cut you off. It sounded like
tell people the beautiful side of it. I've certainly heard some really wonderful stories from you, man. You've had some really nice moments of self-exploration. You've had genuine breakthroughs, and they were all fueled by this love that you have in your heart. So tell people about that. What's really beautiful about your Christian experience?
Man, it sounds weird, but it's kind of less of me, like a more of a surrender of like what I think would be something I would like. So in other words, I used to like going to clubs and chasing women, you know what I mean? And it felt good, and it was like totally normal. Everything felt really good. And then that didn't feel good anymore. So I think maybe if I can use even that reference,
if it still felt good, would that challenge your faith?
It still does. I know it still does feel good.
Sure.
Like in other words, even though I don't, yeah, exactly. Even though
that's smart, man.
Yeah. So I guess maybe the only thing that's really given me what I've sought in life, which is something that is honest. Like in other words, like, bro, when you grow up with something to where, I mean, your life changes, it could literally change week to week, like in these situations, like with mom, or like, you know, her dating these men and stuff like that. So my life was never stable in any kind of way. Like everything was changing constantly. So once I found something that anchored my soul, I realized that's, I think, if anything, if I could describe it, it really kind of grabbed a hold of me. And I was just kind of like sat down, like in a sense of like, not trying to reach and grab and find out and wonder and all that stuff, but it's like, oh, you. And it's like, that's kind of what it was. And that's like, just like a relationship, B, I was in love with him. And then all of a sudden I saw a girl and I'm like, I'm gonna cheat on him. You know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds weird, but just meaning like what my commitment was to him because of what I realized he did for me. I broke that when I decided to go and like be like I used to be. You feel me? Like, and I know that's weird.
No, it's not weird, man. I absolutely adore your leap of faith. I respect the hell out of it, man.
Okay.
I have to ask though, because I always have the question posed to me, you know, oh, well, I'm going to live this lifestyle. And if it's not true, oh, well, I live this good lifestyle, but I'm going to post it to you again. Does it really though?
It does, be. Oh my God. Like this little one down. I mean, it's like,
you can have kids and not be Christian.
No, I know. But what I'm saying, I guess maybe for my life specifically, and not necessarily to share so much of that time where I went 4 years in the wrong direction and get into like super specifics, but it had to do with a daughter. You know what I mean? So when
everything you've shared in your life, like you brought your daughter, the experience up a couple times, the marriage, the almost marriage.
Yeah.
I still haven't heard anything that felt specific to any particular belief system. And I get that you're just describing a life to me, but my point is like, I don't see this hand in hand. This is where I got guided. This is where I heard this message. This is what prevented me from going through with the marriage. Like I know you, and you keep referencing how well I know you, and I do. And it's the reason I always want to interview you is because your personal journey is so strong. You know where you're going. Mm-hmm. You're locked on rails, man. I want that. Everybody should have that. We should all be so lucky as to just know where we're going. Mm-hmm. And just trudge.
That's a hard one though, bro. It's a hard road. Look, I think that, like what you were saying, B, I think I totally agree with you. You can go down in the front of a church and just feel like overwhelmed and just be like,
I know somebody's spoken tongues.
You know what I mean? And it, the way that it's described is kind of like, you know, something like springing up quick. But as soon as life starts like kind of working its way back into that, like I said, I went backwards, like, you know, kind of was falling in love, fell in love, was in love, and then said, I'm going back. And then I ended up in these spots. It was because the world, I decided to incorporate it back in. And I think if I would have just stayed on this path, I would have been on a journey to where God would have been like saying, you and I, now I'm going to show you, or a wife or whatever. And I just got impatient. You know what I mean? So it was like, I ended up back where I started, got my butt kicked, like seriously in life.
But so you had a tough time out in the world. That makes Jesus the only God?
No, I just knew that whenever I was over there, it tasted terrible.
Sure.
Like,
so you're getting your ass kicked in one place.
Yep. So
this must be the best restaurant ever. What if you
No, it wasn't even that. No, he's not the only best restaurant. I already ate at that restaurant. I was eating at other restaurants. It was terrible. And I wanted to go back to the restaurant that I started with. So if that sums it up. Then once I got back to the restaurant, the food was still delicious. I understood that it was like, wait a second, what I've just done and what I've just like turned my back on you and done this stuff. And he was like, that's why I died. And I'm like,
so you felt that message. You felt that message.
Yeah, like
you
that makes sense.
You felt an entity tell you, like, I died for you.
Exactly. Like, so in other words, reading the scriptures, it all comes to everything. Like, in other words, be like I said, I read, and then you're off thinking, and then there's these thoughts and like I communicate with him all the time. Like all throughout the day, I'm just like, thank you, Jesus. Or like, But
hold on. That doesn't by definition mean you're communicating with anybody.
I totally agree with you.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Thank you, Aiden.
No, I totally agree with you.
Well, Aiden's not in my house. He didn't hear me. We're not communicating. You're just saying words to potentially an imaginary friend.
No, I totally agree with you. Like, it could be taken that way. But like I said, there was a conversion. There was the pig slop. Then there was back to the great restaurant. Now it's all of a sudden, it's like, let's take the walk. So now when I start to walk, I start to see my own self like go through changes, like in the sense to where, like we say, you become a new creation. Like I start feeling it in my heart.
Okay.
Like, so all the conversion that's happened internally, I'm still walking out my life, but I'm doing less and less of that. And I'm doing more and more of that. And my life is
age? Couldn't that have to do with
of course,
fatherhood?
No, absolutely.
Couldn't that have to do with your career?
Absolutely. No, all of that could be true. And people could be experiencing it just like I am, but without Christ. I agree.
Here's where I just got to jump back in, because I think that I can rephrase what was stated in this previous conversation of topic in a much politer sense, but it's this. And I don't think that this was ever truly conveyed, but I have a pretty broad group of friends, and I'm grateful for it. I'm lucky that way.
I like that about you, actually.
Thanks, man.
Me too. I mean, we're the same with that.
Yeah, right. I mean, everybody's invited, right? And I think we got a lot of family.
As long as you're true and honest, man.
Genuine people always invited in our lives, right?
Yes.
So because of that, I have this big group of friends, and once in a while I see a cross section of them because of certain moments of pause, like a Christmas time or something. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that I had a group of people in my life that were sort of perpetually lonely, if you will. They'll tell me all the time they're not, but I would get the phone calls that definitely sounded lonely, that implied lonely, that maybe used the word lonely. I would hear a lot about it, and a lot of self-punishment. It was feelings of guilt. There were masturbation issues, pornography issues.
Sure.
And what it all boiled down to when I looked at this cross section, it was all my male Christian friends were miserable and lonely and isolated. And me personally, I've been married 2 times, which I'm not particularly proud of. And there's always 2 sides to every story. I don't pass any judgment or harbor any ill will. And I had about 15 years of my life on heavy pharmaceuticals, not by choice. You come out of those situations and you gain clarity and you look back, and what I realized is 2 people that practically crammed Jesus down my throat. Did some really foul things, and in the end ended marriages. And I think to myself, as bad as I wanted out of those situations, you ain't really living by your own rules.
Dude.
And there's a ton of it, or we would see numbers better.
I agree.
I have witnessed what I believe in my heart is laying on of hands healing of more than one person. I'm not trying to explain that. I saw it. I believe it. My parents participate in such things. That sounds very cultish on the surface, even to me, but I've seen it with my eyes, and that's why I always look for these personal experiences in this truth. That's the kind of stuff that I want to dig deep on, that I really want to hear about. But it seems to me like there's sort of a befuddlement of everybody that's trying to find faith. There seems to be so much confusion. What church to go to.
Absolutely.
So this is where you shine, Jacob. Tell people that are struggling right now, that sense God. And they just don't know what it is, or in your case, who he is, or what to say or what to feel like. Those people that are on the verge, what do you tell them? What do you do for them now?
I mean, there's nothing I can say besides something I haven't lived. So just in my own testimony, you know what I mean? Like I literally have lived it. I've felt it. I've walked through it. Like there's been times in my life to where it was like, I didn't have this God. And then whenever I had Jesus in my life, there's just a huge difference in life.
Okay. Can I pause you there? Can I show you my apples to apples comparisons?
Yes.
I have friends, and I'm using no names.
Okay.
Was in a marriage, in the world as it's described, living very worldly. Maybe working the trades, maybe making a little money that way, maybe popping pills, drinking, whatever you're doing.
Okay.
Marriage explodes. Hits absolute rock bottom financially, emotionally. Loses the taste for the nightclubs. That's the story you hear a lot with, have you tried Jesus? Seems like that's when you get him. That's also part of an indoctrination process of cults, is to find people
that are weak
at those vulnerable moments.
Yeah.
Now, hold on, I'm going to keep going. Now they got God,
mm-hmm.
and they want to keep telling me how great they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the marriage that was worse before and is better now, but there's no marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Show me how before you were dating women outside of the church and now you're dating women in the church and it's better. They can't show that.
Mm-hmm.
The Christian women are trying to sleep with them, and we know the divorce rate's the same in the church. So, and on apples comparison, it isn't just I feel better, because that certainly counts for
mm-hmm.
the most, but you can't look at your past life and your new life and say it's the same without comparing your sex life, your dating life, the marriage. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So people get God and then they get nothing else, it seems to me.
Yeah,
it seems really strange. And sometimes I definitely see a difference. I know a lot of stories of people that met in church, and that's really beautiful. And then like-minded individuals get together. I'm saying on an apples to apples comparison, when
mm-hmm.
I, in my personal experience, look at cross sections of my friends,
mm-hmm.
no one has been better off after they got the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anybody that's just, now it's going to be all right. It just seems like now they have something else to latch onto. They're still mm-hmm. lonely, divorced, by themselves, miserable.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's
because you can't go to bars.
No,
you can't go to nightclubs. You can't sleep with people.
Yeah,
now you got to depend on the church to issue better people to date, but they're not. It's the same numbers.
You did say something. You said like basically along the lines to where, like, I guess maybe in that last statement, I kind of almost hear you saying something like, somebody's coming up and throwing a pamphlet and saying, basically
constantly,
right, okay.
It's strange.
But look, here's even.
I love eating food. I eat food way more than I go to church.
Where
are the guys in front of Walmart like, order my pizza?
Here's a stranger thing.
Try my hoagie.
Right.
I'd be like, hey, cool to see you guys. Here's $5.
Here's a stranger thing. I'll take a t-shirt. And I think this might make sense.
I'll buy a wooden hamburger.
All right. Sorry. So let's say somebody's giving you pamphlets.
Always.
Right.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
And whatever, people all day, somebody's coming up to you, Jesus, right? The conversion actually happens not in those moments. Like if you go back and you watch like somebody go, like I said, for my journey, I heard it. I actually didn't want anything to do with it because I still wanted to do what I wanted to do, honestly, because it was too much like rules, like you said. Like I at that point in my life, I'm 22 years old. And you want me to give up like sex and everything else. Right. But like, so when you think about like, so when people actually get converted, they're like, when I went to church, I didn't go with anybody. Like I literally went by myself the first time.
That's
the second time I went, it
feels awkward the first time.
Pretty much.
You have no reason to be embarrassed, but that's human nature, right?
Second time by myself, third time by myself. And that's when I decided. So in other words, when I decided to do it, not somebody handing me a pamphlet and not somebody beating on my door. When I decided to do it is when I found him.
Did you go into a mosque?
No, I was in a church.
Did you go into a synagogue?
What do you mean?
I'm saying it sounds like you walked into the first place and signed up.
No, somebody told me that day. Like I said, he said, try Jesus, come to the church.
That's cool.
Right, so I tried that church.
Truth is truth. I say this all the time. Sometimes
that's a shout out to Raul Reese and Calvary Chapel Diamond Bar.
Raul Reese, what's up?
That's where I walked into.
You were in Cali at the time, really?
Yep, that's where I walked into.
So that's crazy. That's all Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. Yep. Chuck Smith spawns the revolution, and you get Raul Reese.
Got Raul Reese.
Greg Laurie, our guy Jack Hibbs.
Hey, I went from Raul Reese. This is the teaching I've had. And this is why I say, like, when somebody, you come up in your craft or your field and you're underneath someone, it kind of matters, right? So, I mean, in other words, that people gain a lot of respect for that in a lot of industries on who you're trained under. You know what I mean?
You bet.
So I'm at Raul Reese's church and Jack Hibbs from then on.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
So in other words, I look back on my life and I honestly feel extremely fortunate to have landed there because, like I said, they teach the word. They don't go off of a belief system. It's more like, let's just read what it says and let's, and honestly, they teach what it says. But then when the reader's reading it, it just goes in and people go, man, this is for real. Like,
okay, now take everything you just said, man. Yeah. I'm lucky I landed in that church. They teach the word this way because this is the truth. And so I'm so lucky I landed there. Now you're hearing all those same words come out of a friend of yours Going to a mosque.
To a different one. I know.
No, a mosque, whole nother religion. What do you say to that person?
It's their journey. Like, I don't really have anything to say. Like I said,
do you think they arrive back at Jesus? Do you think that they
absolutely
graduate
they can.
out of that
like
system
I
and they come
literally
back?
think so. Absolutely, 100%. As a matter of fact, there's movements like in all different ways, or I mean, in both ways. Like, there's Christians going to this one. There's this one coming to Christians. You know what I mean? Like, it happens like both ways.
Do you really think that if there was a defined truth laid out on earth, it would be that easy to just pass it by for maybe also fake and just accidentally jump on the wrong thing?
Wait, say that again.
If there was really a truth, if one of them was actually accurate, completely true, as they claim to be, don't you think that that one would stand out, that we'd all see it, that there would be a different kind of rut dug or a different kind of glow about it?
Yeah. There's only one Jesus.
For you. Most of the world doesn't believe what you believe.
Okay, but remember whenever you said, it's kind of like what I was telling you earlier, like, it's not Christians against a different religion or anything like that. Like, if there is only one Jesus, it doesn't take me as a Christian to say there's only one Jesus. There literally is only one Jesus.
But hold on, you understand how it causes division. So let's talk first of all about the PR campaign, and I'm very qualified to talk about of Jesus Christ in like European and then European American culture, okay?
Okay.
He used to paint him as blonde-haired and blue-eyed, man. Mm-hmm. We all know that wasn't the truth. Okay, but sure helps. Sure helps to have a little propaganda, doesn't it? Okay, so we know that there's been this embellishment, that we all know the truth, but let's just go with blonde-haired and blue-eyed.
Yeah.
Those images get into people's skulls. Those images get burned into people's minds. They remember this stuff.
Yeah.
They hear these words. So you don't just get to participate in a microcosm. You are part of something you're claiming is the absolute truth affecting the entire world. But I'm asking, are you willing to recognize that most of the world doesn't believe what you believe?
Absolutely, bro. Okay. Like, I feel it. I mean,
what does that cause you to want to do? I'm curious.
Honestly, I literally, okay, so like I said, like, you know, my whole journey, right? Like, let's just fast forward and just go through all the wreckage and everything. And I'm still following the Lord and I'm making mistakes and the Lord's, you know, dusting my bottom off, and I keep getting up, and it's like finally I arrived to the point to where it's like I'm sold out. Like, you know what, I believe it. I've tested this and tasted that and done this and done that. This is where I'm headed. Like, basically I've waited out on scales all this time. Basically I knew he was the truth the whole time, but just meaning I still wanted to do certain things.
What would you say to people in other religions right now that are kind of having the same moment? Would you tell them try Jesus? Would you tell them go to a Christian church? Would you tell them pick up the Bible and check it out?
I think what's so cool about our God and the one that created us, we are all, every single person, whether it's black, Mexican, white, it doesn't matter. We were all created in God's image, which means his spirit. So in other words, I don't necessarily need to tell them anything besides my own testimony and our friendship, or my daughter, or anything else beyond that. To me, is more or less kind of getting into someone else's life in the sense.
But you recognize that somebody operating the mechanism of Christianity instituted like the Crusades.
Absolutely,
yeah. And now I say this all the time, just because you do something in the name of someone doesn't mean they would appreciate you doing that thing.
Exactly,
so it's easy to smear, but we also look at those things with a certain amount of pride. I referenced Constantine earlier. Mm-hmm. There's a good chance he just lied about having a vision to unite the kingdom. But it gets stood on like doctrine. Do you see how it's dangerous to divide the world up and say, we're right and you're wrong? Do you see how it divides us?
No, absolutely. That's why you go all the way back to God himself.
Okay. So what do we
why don't we start from the beginning?
Clear it up? Like, what would be a nice answer for today in 2021 in Christianity, right? It's very different than back when we would go have witch trials, right? Mm-hmm. So even in our own country, just a couple hundred years later, we're different now, right? We've evolved. Mm-hmm. We're not going to go have witch trials. So in a modern setting where we can all have coffee in the foyer at church, what's a nice answer to stop all this terrible division?
Straight to Jesus.
Okay. How do you tell people that don't believe that to go straight to something they don't believe in?
They don't have to, but if they decided to try to figure out who he was and they were truly set on like, you know what, I've tried all this other stuff and I just want to see, like I want to maybe commit to this thing.
Would you be willing to do that with their religions?
Well, I've already found mine. Like you asked me if somebody
you
was
opened
lost,
you opened
like,
a couple of doors, or maybe the first one, and
no,
you
no,
said,
no,
"This
he's
is
the
where
real
I'm going to
deal.
sleep."
Like, I've
Are you
tasted-
willing to look in the rest of the rooms of the hotel and really evaluate, like you're asking them to do?
Like I said, though, be like the whole time I've been walking with Jesus, I was like, you know, like.
But the whole time they've been walking with Muhammad, their life's been better.
No, that's not what I was going to say, brother. Like what I'm saying, when I was walking with the Lord the whole time, like in the beginning, I was still tasting of the world. Like, in other words, I still kind of did cake and eat. You know what I mean? Like, so in other words, I didn't really understand it. Like, once I actually backslid after that first year, I took this little path of like dabbling with all, you know what I mean? Going back to the world a little bit.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is I was still eating like the stuff that you're saying maybe I'm missing. I was still kind of like getting both in a sense, but I knew he was real, but I wasn't really ready. Like, I just want to do my thing. So as I'm going through the journey, it's not like I just been Jesus only. That's it. Like, I've literally been weighing them out on the scales. Like,
weighing what out? Jesus versus what?
In other words, I wasn't looking for a religion, brother. When I found him, I knew that he was the truth, but I decided to live my life more of pleasure than more for his purpose. Do you get me?
Do you feel like you're living your life for Jesus' purpose now?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
What does that look like? Like, what do you do for him?
It being available, like being authentic, telling the truth.
Okay.
Loving, like, you know,
You're known for that?
Not judging, like, I mean, those types of things. Like,
aren't you judging people though by taking pity on them for not being saved and wanting to, you know, just tell them everything and get them saved on the spot? Isn't that kind of like a judgment? I'm looking down my nose at you. I pity you. Let me just interrupt whatever's going on to try to get you where I think you should be. Isn't that kind of what that is?
No, for me, I don't pity anybody that doesn't have Christ. Like in the sense, I don't look at it. That word is really demeaning in that way. It is very demeaning,
and I think religion causes it.
Yeah, but that's not fair, because like religion,
it's not fair to all the people that just grew up on some plantation somewhere and didn't know what you're talking about, and then they go into a city one day and they get told that their eternal self is damned, that they're going to hell, that they were born a terrible sinner, and that their soul's condemned.
Yeah,
but they better hurry up and fix it. Like, that's all very disheartening. That's a lot of negativity. It's hatred. It's darkness. I don't think that's a very positive message in any way.
Yeah, and
you were born terrible. Fix it.
No,
that's awful.
No, actually, just the opposite.
No, it's not the opposite.
Yeah, just the opposite. You were born terrible, if you will, like with that sin nature.
Okay.
Don't fix it. Surrender it. In other words, there's no effort in surrendering to Christ besides the fact that you get ridiculed. People think you're a goofball.
That sounds tough.
You know, all that stuff.
That all sounds tough.
Like, you know,
not having sex sounds tough.
Like, I mean, but to me, it's
being very limited in who you could have as a potential life mate sounds difficult.
No, that doesn't stop my potential of a life mate. My life mate is this one right now. I mean, like, as far as if somebody else comes along and it feels like it clicks, like we talk about this conversion.
Sure.
If I feel like somebody is compatible with me, absolutely. But for right now, this is my world.
But how would it go if you met somebody that was way out in the world and, you know,
couldn't do it? I wouldn't go no further with that. I'd just be friends, dude. I got a lot of friends that don't believe in Jesus.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I truly do. Like,
but to really click with somebody, that have to drink the same Kool-Aid.
No, bro. Do you not think I click with you?
I ain't trying to date you.
Okay, but the thing is, I'm not like, I mean, you understand. Like, if me and you, if I was around a girl like you, we'd probably date. Like, if you were a girl, you know what I mean?
If you were around a girl like me, tell her to quit lifting weights, man. Her shoulders are pretty broad for a chick.
I just mean, like, I like the fact that I want to live my life in an authentic way. That means that I am a Christian and I do make mistakes. I think that's the whole point. Yeah, I've finally gotten to a point of maturity in my walk with Christ to understand that instead of me trying to worry about being embarrassed, man, just get up and start doing the right thing the next day. You know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. But it's always like, I just want to do my best for the Lord. And maybe potentially if people are around me, my friends, and they don't accept him, I'm okay with that, as you know. And other people, if they do get, man, that's all up to the Lord. My thing is I want to have a genuine relationship with somebody no matter what they believe in. And if you believe in Christ, hallelujah. If you don't, I still love you. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we'll experience a life together no matter what, brother. Whether I believe in Jesus and you don't or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
no, that part's true. Friendships certainly should have a level of respect at a very least where people can have differing opinions, or you're not going to learn anything.
I mean, bro, can't we be the example on anything being like completely the opposite and somebody being able to sit in a room and talk about it without going bonkers?
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yes, and it also illustrates my bigger point that, you know, if you were ever on debate team, when people sit down and debate, you take on a persona, you play a character, you take a stance, and you always fire from the hip on that stance.
Yeah.
Just like if you were claiming to be, say, a Republican and me a Democrat, which is not the case, we could sit here and have this conversation, but I think the reality is when you quit looking at things in terms of, well, you're a Republican, I'm a Democrat, the reality is this big Venn diagram where it's mostly all a shade of gray, but if you want to call that a little more red and this a little more blue, I guess we have to pick a color. That's where I have a problem. Yeah. Is those systems of control set up by division. Yeah. It's not really an open door,
but it's a choice for a Christian. It's not really, like, in other words, I've heard you say that repetitively tonight. It's a choice for the Christian, honestly, brother. It's not a set of rules. Like
it's nothing but rules.
But hold on, I want to explain that.
It's a choice to follow.
But I want to maybe theologically, let me just say this: the Ten Commandments were there to show people that they were sinners and that they needed a savior. So when they looked at the Ten Commandments, we're all guilty. You know what I mean? Like everybody.
I don't know. I've never murdered anyone.
In your mind, you haven't thought to kill someone? Like, man, I like, and I don't mean like that. Like, you want to murder. Hold on, let me back up. Have you not wished ill will on someone? Because that is considered like murderous. Like, in other words,
just in a cult, man. It's not really.
Okay, well, that's fine. Let me move it to a different.
Fuck that guy. Why'd he throw my package down?
Let me move it to a different.
Broken. It got all the way here from China, and you can just set the package on my front porch.
It says, "Thou shalt not steal." You saying you've never stole before in your life?
Everybody's done these things.
Okay, that's
to try and dress it up and put on a wizard costume and say it's a religion is offensive.
No, what I'm saying is they were there to show us that we were guilty and needed a savior. That we were supposed to look for him.
Sure.
Okay, so we were already guilty.
How long did we get the Ten Commandments, Mount Sinai, right?
Yeah.
How long did we get those before the prophecy was fulfilled when we got Christ?
It was 2,000 years, I think.
Okay. So,
well, no, a little less than that. Wait, so it's two. But right about 2,000 years, I think.
So what would you say to all those people that lived and died for, let's call it 1,500 years between, here's these stone tablets I supposedly got directly from God on top of this mountain because we had to reach God, so I wanted to be a little higher.
Each year they had to get together and kill a lamb for forgiveness of sins.
Animal sacrifice is very cultish. Yeah. And so now we're 15. You know this, bro. It's really weird.
Hey, I'm with you.
Your whole religion came out of a cult. It's weird. So 1,500 years of people live and die, not having the connecting points between the two, just having he's coming. What do you say to all those people?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Well, look, 10 Commandments come down. You said they're waiting for a savior. How long did they wait for the savior?
Well, it was about 2,000 years before he came.
2,000 years worth of people just died waiting for somebody.
No, they did sacrifices, bro. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, well, at least they killed a bunch of animals for no reason. Thank goodness.
No, that's another really cool thing that can't be disputed. Like, in other words,
don't you think it's just that it was completely acceptable to slaughter animals up to a certain point where we all went, why are we doing this? And then people matured and rewrote the story and went, it's cool, we don't have to do that anymore.
No, because once Jesus came, he fulfilled that. You didn't have to kill an animal. He was the perfect lamb. He got up there without sin. So in other words,
Catholic Church, time of Galileo, a man says that we're not the center of the universe. They threaten to kill him if he won't stay home for the rest of his life. Fast forward to, I think it was last year, the Catholic Church says it's okay for homosexual unions.
Yeah, dude, I can't.
You're not telling me that this isn't just people writing a story?
I can't talk about the Catholic. I know nothing about them anymore. Like,
but you
I grew up
understand
Catholic,
that their
but
religion is bigger and badder in the world than yours, and they're making these decisions that these people are living their lives by and judging other people over and saying, we're different, and they're following a dude dressed like that, saying these things that can change God's mind. It sounds really dangerous, like a powder keg, like we're setting an environment for failure. We're dividing humanity. We're chopping it up into little belief systems that we're willing to kill each other over.
We're all here anyways. Nobody's being divided. I think that really comes down to really someone's own belief.
Were you born a Democrat or a Republican? Because in America, you kind of have to choose nowadays. So to say we're not being divided, did you ask to be born your ethnicity?
That's what I say. Be like, or let me just make this point really quick. But any topic that we bring up, I always start with Jesus. So in other words,
I know.
So it's a spiritual thing first,
sure.
Then politics. Sure. It's a spiritual thing first.
Oh yeah, politics should be way down the list.
Then money. Then it's spiritual first, and then it's like your marriage. It's spiritual first, so everything is a spiritual first matter.
Do you think it's odd to tell a woman I'm going to marry you, but you have to be second out of the gates?
She would love that if she loved him too, because I would hope I would
super
want.
Culty to
I
me,
truly.
There ain't a woman in the world that wants to get married knowing she's number 2 going in, and you know it, and you know it, and you know
I would
it.
love that. I want to be number 2. If I'm not number 2 in that marriage,
sad,
if I'm not 2 in that marriage, then dude, I can't be her Jesus. I can't do that. Like that's too difficult.
Well,
I want to be second. I promise you.
I really appreciate the people in my life that have the depth that I described earlier, man. And I don't want there to be any misunderstanding here, any miscommunication. We butt heads in the conversation because we're both looking for something.
We can handle it.
Frankly, that's not going to show up in the conversation. The conversation's always great.
Yeah.
You're looking to convert me, and I'm looking for proof, and I don't think it's ever going to come out in the conversation.
I'm looking to enjoy our friendship, brother. Whether you get converted or not, it's up to you.
The reality is our friendship will be very different always when there's that unequally yoked category.
Me and you are never going to be yoked.
Come to my next party and we'll see if you feel the same way.
I'm serious.
I'm serious too.
What do you mean yoked? What do you mean? What does that mean? Come to your next party. What does that mean?
Justin, how different is this recording episode than our normal ones?
Oh, come next week. I got you. Okay, I see the podcast.
I'm saying if you don't think there's a difference.
A little more enlightened.
Huh? Next week?
It's really different, man. And the thing is I think that there's a lot of people, and I'm getting concerned, maybe people in my family included, are so involved in this one little building, this one little box, and this one little place full of these same people that they're just so sure have the truth that really when all these people pass away, no one's ever going to talk about it again in 50 years. I don't mean the people, I mean the cause inside this room where it's like, if that was really the truth, it would undulate.
Yeah.
It would be a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's something that concerns me because I see a lot of people separated even inside our own community over such a thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't want the separation, but everybody preaches love. But what I see in writing is hatred.
Mm-hmm.
And they all go, oh, whoa, no, that's not true. Haven't you seen the signs for sale at Walmart?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, I've seen the cute little wooden memes and stuff, but I don't know that that's in any way making anything true just because our society embraces it. And so I rely on expertise, and I consider you an expert in your field. When it comes to the Bible, I feel like you really
I'm
know
not
your
an
stuff.
expert, man, but I definitely
in
love
my
trying.
world, you are, though.
I would love to try to be, bro. Like I'm striving.
Sure.
Like I said, that audio Bible, man, I'm telling you, it's made an incredible difference. Like
That's
being
on
more
camera,
brainwashed.
It's going to
okay.
chop.
Okay, baby. Watch out real quick. But I love having that Word of Promise audio Bible in my life. It's like I'm being more brainwashed, like you like to say. But I'm on fire, man, in the sense of this. I'm kind of like I just want to do well. I want to be, like I said,
We
just
all do.
basic stuff. I want to be
Maybe
honest.
stop telling people what they can do with their
authentic.
sexuality, because maybe a person
I'm not
out there-
saying any, man.
but
like,
your religion
literally-
is, and you're holding it up, bro. You're flying the flag.
Listen,
You're
here's
so proud of it.
Listen, here's
you
the thing.
also support this thing that is an entity that's affecting our country.
Here's
you
one
understand
thing.
there's a lot of people feel really hated.
Here's one thing.
Like in their home, because everyone's Christian and they're transgender.
I want to say something to you. When I talk about Jesus, I always am like talking about like
Your camera's
an
off,
invitation.
brother.
It's
Sure.
okay. It's an invitation. Like I don't barge into people's lives talking about
I
Jesus.
strongly disagree.
Me and you have been so close. We talk to the depths.
It's almost
though.
all we talk about.
But hold on though. When you were going through all that stuff with her, how was I supposed to encourage you if I'm talking about this
you keep
Jesus?
saying it, just as my friend.
Huh? Say it again.
You keep saying it.
Yeah.
Just as my friend. You just asked me, how could I possibly encourage you, my friend, without Jesus? Just be you. Just be my friend.
That's exactly what I've done.
But it's always about Jesus, and I respect it about you. But
That's
this is
who I
where
am now.
this is where you're living in a false reality. This is your augmented reality. You think you don't get treated
But how
differently.
fair is it for you to
because of
say that and you're not in one? Like
Oh,
that's
we all
not
are.
fair. Yeah. So in
The
other
difference
words,
is I'm not telling anybody I have any answers. I'm here asking questions.
I agree. And
You're
I'm
not
like,
asking any questions, and that's dangerous.
no, that's not necessary. Well,
When people stop asking questions and say they have the answers is when everything gets real
I see
dangerous.
what you mean. I see what you mean. Okay, but when you do get to the truth, do you keep asking?
If I ever reach any absolute truth, I'll let you know.
I'm there. Like I feel like in my own mind, and like in my own heart.
And that's the part of your journey that I love so much, man, is you've reached a milestone that is real.
So it
All
was
of
a
our
long,
milestones are only
hard
here.
road, B.
I know it was.
It was a long, hard road. And that's the whole point, I think. I think that my journey is not necessarily to say I'm a Christian. It's more like, dude, that was something, man. Like
it's a truly personal journey.
very, very personal for me. Very personal.
So I'll tell you what, to wrap this thing up on time, would you be willing, now that you've officially been in the setting, had the first convo, and we've gotten all this first stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to put something together, something that's close to your heart, a message that strikes you, and just come share a gospel with a person that'll just sit and listen?
I would love to, man. Yeah, I would love to. And I really appreciate, of course, our friendship, but just this platform and the thing that you're doing. And I think that, you know, getting a bunch of people together and a bunch of different opinions for everybody to listen to